Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is true potential in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 66, Moving Forward. Yakushi Kabuto, huh? Gaara crossed his arms as he closed his eyes in thought. He, his siblings, Naruto, Lee, and Tenten were sitting down in the Kazekige's office. The window was open, giving the room some slight natural lighting from the rising sun. I don't know how much you knew of him, Naruto said. I know that you all had worked with Otogakuer and Orochimaru during the invasion of Konoha, but I don't really know what your relationship was with Orochimaru or if you even knew who Kabuto was. I mean, we knew of him somewhat. Kankuro spoke, frowning. What we knew of him was that he was Orochimaru's go-to errand boy. We were told he was a spy and that was in the Chunin exams to observe, so we were told not to engage at all costs. He visited our hotel often to chat with Baki though. Temari offered. He was polite but came off incredibly fake. Which obviously he was, since he was a spy. Naruto. Gaara opened his eyes and looked at his fellow Jinchuriki. What you just told us is incredibly concerning, especially how he was able to acquire the Kekkei Genkai of Pakura. He had only just taken that body, didn't he? Tenten asked, frowning. That means he doesn't need to have a lot of research time to obtain the Kekkei Genkai from bodies. And that's also not touching on his ability to perform the Edo Tensei. Gaara added. Having, our father, attack Suna was troublesome. It is now seemingly possible that Kabuto would be able to do this with any deceased shinobi if he had access to their body. Imagine if he were able to raise an army at some point of all the strongest shinobi from history. Kankuro mumbled. There was a pregnant pause that overtook the room. It was finally broken as Lee proceeded to cough. This is a legitimate risk that all shinobi villages need to be aware of, he said simply. Gaara nodded his head in agreement as he pulled out a scroll. He immediately began to write in it. We need to spread this information. I'm going to send warning to all shinobi villages. This is not a threat that anyone should take lightly. The Kazekage noted. This is something that every village should be able to agree upon. I do not want Kabuto grave robbing my village again to steal Kekkei Genkai, and I'm sure that other villages do not want the same. I can't imagine any village actually rejecting such information. Tenten noted. Obviously Konoha will understand and try and take more precautions to keep bodies safe. Kiri and Iwa should follow suit as well, and the minor villages like Taki and Kusa would also be willing to take similar precautions. Kankuro pursed his lips. I noticed you did not say Kyumo. Tenten said nothing. The room grew quiet once again. Gaara took a moment to collect his thoughts on the subject as well. Kyumigakuer, the only asterisk to Tenten's statement. The village hidden within the clouds had not taken the news well that the other great shinobi villages were starting to increase communication and cooperation. The increased hostility in diplomacy and interaction with Kyumigakuer shinobi in Rhino Kuni has put a strain on their relationship with the opposing villages. Kyumo and the Yondaime Raikage has placed a lot of value on Kekkei Genkai. Lee finally spoke with a frown. It's why they were involved in unethical behavior to obtain them. I'm certain that they will at least take this information into consideration. Naruto developed a frown of his own as he shook his head, more than unethical. Kyumigakuer tried to kidnap Hinata-chan. Still, the frown on his face grew deeper. Still, it's not fair to judge the whole village for that one act. Plus, it would be terrifying for Kabuto to have access to their graves and get any powers they had and powers that they had stolen. I'm going to send a letter to the Yondaime Raikage. Gaara spoke as he continued writing in his scroll. If he does not respond, then I'll simply speak to him in person during the Chunin exams. He will have to at least acknowledge the threat of Kabuto. I'm sure your Godame will also be acting. Temari said. He definitely will. Naruto exclaimed. However, he needs to know about all of this stuff right away, and although I could send a toad, there's some things I'd like to talk about in person with him. And since my Genin team has finished the mission we came here for, we're actually going to be leaving back for Konoha today. Completely understood. Gaara nodded his head. I assume you will be leaving in a few hours. Yeah. I'm just letting them get some sleep. We should be out no later than 10 o'clock, if even that," Naruto said with a shrug. He then turned to face Lee and Tenten. "I know you two are doing some kinda mission to help with Sunakanoha relations, so I suspect you'll still be staying here. We should. My apologies, Naruto-kun." Lee bowed his head. This caused the blonde to chuckle slightly. "Hey, it's a mission. I don't care. We'll return to Konoha as well probably in about a week." Tenten said. "You can give an initial report to Hokage-sama that the mission is going well and that I think we're making an impression on the Suna Academy students. You both are, and thank you for that," Temari added, smiling. Both Tenten and Lee shared a look with each other, grinning, feeling pleased with themselves. "Regardless, Naruto, if you're going back today, you should get some rest," Gaara suggested. "Get some sleep. I can tell you haven't gotten any in a little while." As if on cue, the blonde proceeded to yawn. "Possibly. I might try and take an hour nap," he said, shrugging his shoulders. "I don't really want to sleep too long though, cause once my students get up and get ready, I'd like to be on the road." "Then go back and get your rest," Kankuro stated, chuckling slightly. "You need some form of sleep. We can talk before you leave again, Naruto. Just rest for now," Gaara told him. Yeah. Naruto yawned again as he started to walk towards the door. He waved goodbye before leaving. It was going to be a long day, after all. Any rest he could get would be necessary. "You're here on time. Good. Come in." Niji nodded his head as he walked into the Uzumaki clan sealing hall, following Masakado. His hands began to fidget with his forehead protector as his eyes started to wander the room slightly. The room's walls were painted a dark green color and had the Uzumaki clan symbol painted in dark blue on all four corners of the wall. Along the walls, underneath the spirals, were hanging scrolls that depicted four different individuals: Uzumaki Mito, wife of the Shodei Hokage; Uzumaki Rei, the Shodei Uzukage; Uzumaki Kanji, the Nidai Muzukage, and a man that represented the Rakudo Sennin. The room itself had no windows. A dim light, emitted from two seals on the ceiling, kept the room from being consumed in darkness. Outside of the walls, the room was bare. The only thing in the room was a large green mat in the center of the room. Such a simple room, but it seems to emit a sense of power just being here, Niji noted. "This is my own personal sealing chamber, although I suppose Naruto could use it if he really needed to. I normally spend my time here working on a personal project of mine, but I'm inviting you in here for today," Masakado answered. His eyebrow rose slightly as he studied the Hyuga. "Did you get good sleep last night? Eat something? Believe me, we are going to be in this room all day. Potentially longer. Are you ready for this? I've been waiting for this moment for as long as I can remember," Niji answered as he started to untie his forehead protector, revealing his cursed seal. "This can change the life of every branch family Hyuga and the direction of our clan altogether." "That is true." The Uzumaki nodded his head in agreement. "Then we will begin. Please, lay down on your back on the sealing mat." Niji walked over to the mat on the ground and proceeded to lay down. Masakado walked over to him and pulled out a scroll and a pen from his pockets. He laid down on the ground, right next to Niji's head. "As you are aware, this seal that was placed on you was placed on your brain," he stated. "As a result, I will have to be especially careful when applying this new seal onto you. Every stroke will take me at least 30 minutes to an hour. While this seal could potentially endanger your life, I am going to be cautious and to maximize the likelihood of your survival and the success." "I understand," Niji spoke. Masakado uncapped his pen. He opened up the sealing scroll and began to analyze the notes that he had previously written. His eyes closed slightly as he began to lift his seals and practice brush strokes with his pen. Chakra began to flow through his body to his right hand and into the pen itself. "Father, watch over me. Wish me luck." Niji closed his eyes in prayer. "With this moment, I am choosing my own destiny." 10 o'clock came quickly. Naruto and his genin team gathered their belongings and quickly left the Kazekage's mansion. They proceeded to arrive at the gate to Sunagakure. Gaara was standing there, eyeing the Konoha shinobi. "Yo! Naruto waved his hand to the Kaze cage. Thanks for letting us stay at your place, Gaara. While I wish the time could have been better, it was awesome to see you again. And it's especially awesome to see that you're the frickin' Kaze cage. It was an honor to see you too, Naruto. I wish that the time was not so chaotic, but I am pleased you were able to assist us while you were here. Gaara replied, bowing slightly. His eyes then moved to his genin team. It was an honor to meet you three as well. I know that the three of you will make excellent shinobi in time. We'll try, Kazekage-sama. Hanabi bowed, smiling. Please, I feel like I told you all, no need to be formal. Just call me Gaara from now on. He replied. Well, okay then. It was nice meeting you, Gaara. Katsumi replied, smiling impishly at the man. Next time you see us, we'll be at the Chunin exams and we'll impress the hell out of you. I don't recall saying anything about the Chunin exams. Naruto frowned slightly, but kept the comment to himself. I look forward to it. The Godame Kaze cage said. He then turned his attention back to Naruto as he reached into his robe and pulled out a scroll. If you would not mind giving this to your Hokage, Naruto. Of course. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki grabbed the scroll and pocketed it. First thing I'll do when I get back. Gaara extended his hand out to Naruto. A smile developed on the blonde's face as he took it, shaking his hand. See you again, Gaara. Show this village how awesome of a Kaze cage you are. Naruto informed him. I will. Gaara replied, smiling back. You keep doing well yourself. I intend to see you with the Hokage's hat at some point. Oh, you will. The Uzumaki chuckled. I'm not gonna let myself fall behind you for too long. With those words, the Konoha shinobi departed from Suna. The Kaze cage remained at the gate, waving goodbye to them as they disappeared. The time in Sunagakure was a hectic time, but the Konoha shinobi were grateful to have stayed in Gaara's mansion and stay with him and his family. They were all already looking forward to when they would see him again next. Alright, let's end it here. Shikamaru suggested. Both Hinata and Doso nodded their heads in agreement. Since none of the three shinobi had any missions, they had agreed to meet at Training Ground 17 for some basic training, which consisted of exercise, sparring, and jutsu practice and experimentation. They managed to stay training for 5 hours before they called it a day. You know, Doso, I am impressed with the additions to your fighting style. Shikamaru stated as he eyed the melody braces that were attached to the former Oto shinobi's ankles. I'm surprised it took you this long to finally implement some type of sound modification device on your feet. I had to build these braces. It took a while to make a pair that would amplify sound without dragging down my overall speed. Doso replied simply. But I'm glad it got working, finally. It makes you tougher. The Nara noted with a smirk. Maybe tough enough to seek out that overdue Jonin promotion. Possibly. Doso replied, chuckling lightly. Regardless, I worked up an appetite after the sparring. Would you two like to go get something to eat? I'm down. Shikamaru replied as he put his hands in his pockets. What about you, Hinata? The Hyuga heiress looked over at her friends in confusion. Did one of you say something? Both Shikamaru and Doso frowned in response. Are you alright, Hinata? You've been rather spacey today. Shikamaru noted. Something on your mind? I'm alright. I'm just. Hinata sighed. Today's the day of Nijinai Isan's sealing. Oh. Doso's eyes widened slightly in realization. So, Masakado-san has finished that seal he has been working on for your family. Yes, but it's admittedly rather risky to implement. There's a chance that it could do some serious harm to Nijinai Isan's brain if he puts it on incorrectly. The Hyuga heiress noted, frowning. I trust Masakado-san to not take a risk he wouldn't be comfortable with, but I can't help but be nervous. I don't want anything to happen to Nijinai Isan. It's fair to be concerned, but I wouldn't stress too much about it. The former Otagakure shinobi noted. Your cousin obviously feels like the seal will be successful. I agree, but I also can't help but think he might just be taking a risk in hopes that the seal works. If it does, it will help both of us with accomplishing our dream of uniting the Hyuga clan. Hinata stated. So, I think Niji and I-san might be trusting that it will work out of hope that it will work rather than whether or not he thinks it will work. Hinata, you said it yourself, Masakado would not do anything that would put Niji at any unnecessary risk. Shikamaru spoke. I get that you're worried for him, but you've gotta trust both of them. Masakado will not do anything to harm Niji and Niji understands the risks. He'll be fine. No. The Kunoichi sighed again. It's just stressful waiting for the results, I guess. Let's eat, then. So we can help you distress some more. Shikamaru offered. Yakiniku Q anyone? I'm down for some barbecue. Whatever you two want is fine. I'll find something to eat anywhere. Dosu shrugged his shoulders. That sounds lovely to me. Hinata said. The three shinobi began to walk away from the training ground back towards the village center. They walked at a rather leisurely pace as they walked past civilians and shinobi along the way. Wonder when Naruto and Anko will be back from their missions. Shikamaru wondered. Naruto-kun's mission shouldn't take too much longer, to be honest. It's only a supply delivery to Suna from what I recall. He should be back maybe in a few days. Hinata offered. Anko-sensei, though, who knows? Her missions in Kiri sometimes can take forever. I wonder why. Dosu mumbled. Shikamaru turned his attention to his friend. You know something? Not officially, but I have a theory about something. He replied. The Nara rolled his eyes, and your theory is? That Anko Teiku and Zabuza-san have a thing for each other. Dosu answered. Both Hinata's and Shikamaru's eyes widened as they stared at their friend in surprise. They were quiet for a moment, processing it, before they both started to laugh loudly. I have no idea where you came to that conclusion, but I hope that's true. Shikamaru snickered. They're both sadists, they're perfect for each other. They'd be so cute together. I hope you're right about that. Hinata exclaimed. It's just a theory of mine, but I've always noticed that they have chemistry and I find it rather suspicious that he's the one who always comes by to pick up Anko for missions in Kiri. Dosu stated with a light chuckle. Who knows, though? The trio continued to laugh as they discussed Anko's potential relationship status along the way to Yakiniku Q. It was a light-hearted topic and it cleared up Hinata's mind. For the first time since the morning, Hinata was able to rest and not stress about Niji and the ceiling. Along the countryside of Mizu no Kuni, 3 members of the 7 swordsmen of Kirigakure were walking down the countryside of Mizu no Kuni. They were approximately 1 day away from arriving at the gates of Kirigakure. The trio walked in silence until one of them felt their nose start to rustle. Achoo! Anko sneezed loudly. Getting sick, Anko-san? Kyo questioned. If you are, stay far away from me. I hate getting sick. Zabuza grumbled, crossing his arms. I'd rather take a kunao to the back than catch a fucking cold. I'm not getting sick, don't worry. I think some bastard is talking about me if I had to guess. Anko grumbled. Alright, this seems like a good spot. Let's set up camp for tonight here. Naruto sighed as he dropped his bags down. Naruto's genin did as he instructed and dropped their bags as well. They then proceeded to quietly start getting their sleeping bags out and getting prepared for the evening. Naruto watched the group with a small frown on his face. His genin squad had, for the most part, been quiet along the way ever since they left Sunagakure. The Uzumaki did not particularly enjoy the silence, but let it last for a while. Now that they were stopped for the night, though he was not so content with it. So, you 3 upset about something or you all just have something on your mind? The Jonin asked as he sat down on the ground. The 3 genin, as if on cue, stiffened at his words. They all turned to face their sensei. Naruto's eyes moved across the faces of each of his students. Both Hanabi and Katsumi had rather nervous looks on their faces while Kanji had a neutral, almost tired look on his. Come on guys. It's me. Naruto said with a light chuckle. I'm not gonna bite your heads off. What ya thinking about? Are you really certain that we are going to grow to your level one day? Katsumi finally spoke up. The Uzumaki tilted his head. Where'd that come from? From that situation with that Kabuto guy. She answered, crossing her arms as she started to frown. It felt like we were dead weight there. I know we weren't there for the whole thing, but dash. It seemed as if the seals your clones put on us is the only reason we're alive. Kanji finished. Naruto sighed. The Uzumaki shook his head as he closed his eyes, taking a moment to collect his words. Yakushi Kabuto is an incredibly dangerous missing shinobi. While I don't know his rank in the bingo book, I'd be willing to bet he's at least high rank, if not an S-rank shinobi. Naruto spoke. I wouldn't dash. Wouldn't what? Katsumi spoke up, her frown turning into a scowl. Compare ourselves to him? It's kinda hard when we got into a fight with the guy. It's demoralizing, to be honest. Hanabi spoke, looking down. The Uzumaki shook his head once again. He took in a deep breath as he opened his eyes and gave his students a sharp look. If it bothers you that much, then quit. He stated. Excuse me? Hanabi mumbled, her eyes widening. I said quit. The Uzumaki repeated. If it bothers you that much, then quit. The shinobi lifestyle might not be the correct path for you, if you're that afraid of a shinobi that's only currently stronger than you. Katsumi's scowl seemed to deepen. So you think we should quit dash? I didn't say that. Naruto interrupted, his eyes focusing on her. I said, if that's what you genuinely feel, then quit. But that's not what I am telling you all to do. Then what are you trying to tell us? Kanji questioned. Naruto grabbed the shirt underneath his Konoha flak jacket and held it forward. He showed off the kanji on it, the kanji for the number 3. On my first C-rank mission, my squad ended up in a fight with 2 missing shinobi in Tsuki no Kuni, one of them an upper A-rank shinobi and the other an S-rank shinobi. They were merciless and nearly killed me and my team. One of the only reasons we all ended up surviving was because I lost control of the Kyuubi and it was able to fight and kill off one of the missing shinobi. Naruto spoke. I didn't really talk much about it with my squad at the time, a lot of things were happening all at once then on that mission, but it was pretty scary knowing how close we all were to dying. Naruto's grip on his shirt grew tighter. A small smirk developed on his face as he looked down at the kanji on it, but in the end, I still persevered and stayed true to who I am. I grew stronger. And I was able to use that as motivation to get my stronger. My Jonin sensei, Mitarashi Anko, used that experience as a motivator to push me and my team through harder training and toughen us up even more. We became strong like that so something like that could never happen to us. Nothing like that ever did and nothing like that ever will. And the same thing is true for you 3. Naruto finally let go of his shirt. He looked at his 3 students and his smirk dropped into a more gentle smile. You 3 are great shinobi. I refuse to hear otherwise. He exclaimed. Katsumi, you already knew Earth-style ninjutsu before I even met you while you were just an academy student. Kanji, you have a great mastery of your clan's techniques and have a great strategic mind that can get developed even more. And Hanabi, you graduated 2 years earlier than you were expected to. You're great with your clan's signature techniques, especially with your modifications with Hebai Hiro. All 3 of you are excellent for Genin and as you get older and stronger and train harder, you'll get even better and better. I don't want you all to be constantly afraid of stronger enemies. There will always be stronger ones out there. But that's your motivation to always get stronger yourself and to keep training. So you can fight them off. 'Cause in the end, you all do have the one trait I'd love in all shinobi. You have the will of fire. Naruto stated. He brought his hand up to his Konoha forehead protector. You knew that Kabuto was out of your league and still came back because you were worried about me, a comrade and fellow shinobi of Konoha. I don't agree with how you 3 got into the fight, I would have been more careful, and I want you all to exercise more caution when you fight stronger enemies, but I agree with that mindset. You all have had the desire to protect your comrades is the most valuable thing to have and how I know all 3 of you will be amazing shinobi. Katsumi, Kanji, and Hanabi were silent as they looked at their Jonin sensei. Hanabi and Katsumi both had wide eyes on their faces as they stared at him in awe. Kanji had a more neutral expression as he brought his hands to his face in thought. I've been overwhelmed a lot over this whole journey with all the stronger Suna shinobi and that Kabuto guy. Katsumi broke silence, as her surprise morphed into a large smile. But you're right, Naruto-sensei. I'm going to work harder to make sure that never happens. Naruto-sensei. Hanabi spoke up. She clapped her hands together as she looked at him expectantly, a smile developing on her lips. You said your Jonin-sensei made your team go through a much harsher training regime after your mission. I assume you'll do the same for us. You better. Katsumi exclaimed, pounding her fists together. Give us anything you got. We can take it. I know you all can. Naruto said, smiling at his students. And believe me, I'm going to be utterly ruthless. The blonde then stood up and proceeded to look around their campsite. But for now, let's get a fire going, some food cooked, and then hit the bed so we can get back to Konoha. His 3 genin immediately got up and started following his suggestion. Naruto watched them gather wood for fire and set up camp in much brighter spirits. A smile developed on his lips as he watched them. It was genuinely surprising to him how good it felt to be a Jonin-sensei. A loud knock sounded on Hinata's door, alerting her. The Hyuga heiress was about to fall to sleep when the noise reverberated throughout her bedroom. She proceeded to get out of bed and inch closer to the door. Who is it? She questioned. It's a bit late for someone to stop by. Maybe it's... Her eyes widened as the thought developed in her head. She immediately activated her Byakugan to see beyond her door. Outside of her room stood both her father and Niji. She immediately opened her door and stepped outside to greet them, her eyes focused on her cousin. The Branch clan family member was holding onto his forehead protector in his right hand. His forehead, however, was changed. Directly surrounding the green caged bird seal was a blue-colored seal in the shape of a flame that connected all of the lines of the old seal, the exact seal that Masakado had shown the trio prior. Niji and I-san. A large smile was on Hinata's face as her eyes focused on the seal. It worked, right? Right. In response, Niji simply smiled. He then turned to his uncle, Hayashi-sama, if you could demonstrate for Hinata. Hayashi nodded his head and immediately brought his hand into a single hand sign. His eyes narrowed as he started to apply chakra. Niji, however, had no reaction whatsoever. He felt no physical pain in the slightest. After a few seconds of trying, Hayashi finally brought his hand back down. A large smile, one larger than Hinata had ever seen on her father, developed on his lips. As you can see, Hinata, it's not working. The negative side effects of the seal are no longer there. Hayashi stated. I am free. Niji stated simply, his eyes moving upward as tears began to fall. Father, the cage is finally open. Hinata quickly reached forward and pulled her cousin into a tight hug, which he returned. Tears of her own began to develop, which only caused her to tighten her embrace of Niji. Niji and I-san. I'm so happy. I'm so happy for you. Hinata exclaimed. This is it. This is how we unite the Hyuga clan. The actual physical task has been completed. Niji noted as the two cousins broke their embrace. All that's left now is the final steps. The final step to uniting the clan, getting Hinata marked with her own new seal and then proving to the elders of the clan the benefits of uniting the clan together. This is a radical change in our family's dynamic, so I alone can't make this decision. The elders of the clan need to also approve. Hayashi noted. They, particularly Yoshikane, are a traditional group and will be hard to sway. Grandfather. Hinata frowned at her father's use of his name. Having said that, I believe you two are strong enough to sway the feelings of the clan as a whole. Hinata and Niji, as I have said multiple times to you both, you two have become some of the strongest shinobi our clan has ever produced. Present yourselves strongly to them and they will accept this decision. I'm certain of it. Hayashi declared. When should we confront the elders? Niji questioned. I would say to wait until Hanabi returns to the village. She should be told the news, first. Hayashi said. When she returns, I would like to set up a meeting between the elders no later than a day or two from then. Understood. Both cousins nodded their heads in agreement. Naruto-kun will be back in the village for this then, as well. A look of determination developed on Hinata's face as she tightened her fists. I'm glad. He will see me accomplish my dream. He is going to see Niji and I-san and I unite our clan. Naruto-sensei. Naruto yawned as he opened his eyes and started to stretch slightly. It was still dark over the campsite. His eyes moved over to his side and saw Hanabi and Katsumi, still asleep in their sleeping bags. He then turned his head and noticed that Kanji was sitting up, staring at him. Kanji? Naruto asked, still yawning. What are you doing up? Couldn't sleep. The Yamanaka admitted with a sigh. You know that I got clones surrounding the area, yeah? They'd wake us up if something was approaching us. The Uzumaki informed him. I'm aware, but that's not why I can't sleep. Just. Kanji sighed once again. Look. Can we talk? Just us. The blonde pulled himself up to a sitting position. He yawned one last time before his eyes steeled themselves, becoming more alert and awake. What's up? He asked. Look. I just wanted to talk to you a bit about your speech from earlier. Kanji said as he started to bite his fingernails. It was what I needed to hear, but, look, I just need to know, you're being serious about your assessment of us. I wouldn't lie. Naruto said. Why do you think I'll be a great shinobi? Kanji asked. Naruto frowned. I already told you, you have great skill with your clan techniques, you have a good strategic mindset, and you've actually picked up on the lightning style jutsu I gave you. You're getting stronger from the criticism I gave you that one time after the graduation test I gave you, which also showed me you're willing to get stronger and you're not stubbornly stuck to your way and all that jazz. Kanji pursed his lips as he closed his eyes in thought. I think you'll be an amazing shinobi, Kanji. Naruto stated again, his frown deepening. This isn't the first time you've suggested this feeling, though. You've always said about how you are destined for mediocrity. Why do you think that? 'Cause I'm not supposed to be. Kanji answered, his lips turning into a frown. I'm a random Yamanaka shinobi. I'm nobody special in the clan. I'm destined to just be a statistic in our village's casualty list one day. Okay, now that's not true. The Jinchuriki's frown turned into a scowl. Who gave you that idea? Kanji was silent for a while. Naruto sat quietly with him. He remained quiet until his student was comfortable enough to speak. After a few seconds, Naruto's scowl faded into and he gave the fellow blonde a gentle smile as he placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. Kanji stiffened at the action, but it seemed to finally give him a voice. Naruto-sensei, have you ever noticed how many clan family shinobi are out there? How many various shinobi belong to clans like the Nara, Aburame, Akimichi, Inuzuka, and Yamanaka? Kanji questioned. Other than me, how many of them do you know outside of just the clan heads and their immediate family? I know plenty of Nara and Hyuga shinobi dash. The Hyuga doesn't count. Thanks to the Byakugan, they're a special case. Even the branch shinobi are meant for greatness. Kanji interrupted, frowning. But you know a few Nara shinobi. Okay. I'm assuming it's cause of that Shikamaru guy that was you teammate, yeah. Well, yeah, but dash. Okay then, let me tell you something rather blunt, us clan family shinobi are meant to be statistics only. Kanji continued to interrupt. Only the clan head's immediate family is actually going to go somewhere. For the rest of us, we're destined to be middle-of-the-road shinobi, that will receive the rank of Chunin and nothing higher. And usually, we are the ones who are destined to die in war first. Naruto was quiet for a moment as he let go of his shoulder and looked at his student. He studied the rather neutral, tired look on the blonde's face. Kiba has told me that the Lost Shinobi War resulted in lots of Inuzuka clan shinobi dying. And I know that quite a few Nara and Yamanaka shinobi died then as well. Naruto's eyes started to widen, as he started to notice the pattern that the boy was talking about. And I don't know many shinobi from the various clans either. But that's still bullshit. That's not. Naruto's widened further as a realization just dawned on his face, So that's why you hate Ino, huh? You're jealous of her being Inoichi's daughter. Hate is a strong word. I don't hate her. Or at least, I try not to hate her. Kanji sighed. But yes, I will admit that I'm jealous of her and all the opportunities that she has that I will never have. I am incredibly jealous. Ino can't control who her father is. Naruto stated sharply, crossing his arms. I'm aware. I understand that it's irrational and all, and that she's a nice girl and she's a good shinobi in her right, but you must understand what I'm talking about. All the coincidences related to all the various clan family shinobi. They aren't coincidences. They're just the way life is. The Yamanaka stated bluntly. In the end, we're just statistics. No one even cares when a random Yamanaka shinobi dies. Naruto's face softened again. You can't actually think that, can you? I do. I watched it happen to my older brother. Kanji admitted. You have a brother? Naruto questioned. Had. The Yamanaka corrected. His name was Yamanaka Fu and he had bright orange hair that no one else had. I really liked it. I always told him it explained his fiery personality. A small, bitter chuckle escaped his lips. My brother was supposed to be a rising star in the clan and was making tons of headway in the Shinobi Academy. And then, one day, he just vanished. And no one cared. What do you mean? The Uzumaki asked, frowning. He already knew he was not going to like the answer. I don't know. Literally, Fu went to the academy one day and never came back. Kanji answered. Tears were starting to develop in the boy's eyes as he shook his head. He never showed up at the academy that day. We tried to look for him throughout Konoha and we couldn't find him. He literally just vanished. Kanji. Naruto's frown deepened as he placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. I'm sorry dash. And not a damn person cared. The Yamanaka hissed as he swatted his sensei's hand away. The academy moved on as if it didn't happen. No shinobi seemed to care. Not even our clan head cared too much. When I asked Inoichi, he just frowned, told me that there was nothing we could do about it, and just move on. Kanji's body started to shake slightly. Naruto grabbed for the boy and pulled him into a hug. This time, the Yamanaka did not try and push him away, he, instead, returned the hug. We had to have a funeral for him, but only my parents, the Hokage, Inoichi, and I were there. No one else came. Cause no one knew him, so no one cared. Because that's just the way it's meant to be. Kanji sobbed. We're just supposed to be a statistic, that's all. Naruto tightened his hug the boy tighter. Kanji stopped talking and proceeded to just cry quietly against the Jonin's shoulder. It took a minute before he finally stopped crying. When he finished, Naruto let go of the hug. He then looked at his student directly in his still red eyes. I can't say anything about most shinobi, but I can just tell you from my own experience, I see a lot of potential in you as a shinobi. You're not forgettable, you're an amazing shinobi destined for excellence. And I'm going to make sure you become the shinobi you were meant to be, no matter what. Naruto told him, smiling. Naruto-sensei, that's not dash. How things are supposed to be. The Jinchuriki interrupted, shaking his head. The Hyuga clan is supposed to be divided, but right now, my girlfriend and her cousin are in the process of bridging the gap and uniting the clan into one family. And they're going to do it. As you are going to become a great shinobi. Kanji looked downward. He rubbed his eyes, getting rid of any tears that were still in them. I think I asked you this when we first met, but now, I am not going to accept any other answer than the truth. What is your dream? Naruto asked. The Yamanaka was silent for a few seconds. He took in a deep breath before he looked up again, facing his Jonin sensei. I want to join Anbu, or at the very least, be a strong Jonin. Kanji answered. I want to be strong enough to prove that a shinobi like me can become one of the greatest shinobi. I want to become strong enough to make my parents and clan proud, keep everyone in my life safe, and be an inspiration for clan family shinobi like me. Then we're going to make that happen. Naruto stated sharply as he grinned. I'm going to do everything in my power to help you grow stronger so you can surpass your own dreams. When I'm done with you, you'll be the frickin' Umbu commander. A small smile developed on the boy's lips as he shook his head. Tears were, once again, developing in his eyes, but for a seemingly different reason. Naruto-sensei, why do you say such cheesy things? Kanji asked. His smile widened as he tried to wipe away his tears. Okay. I don't believe that it's possible for me to be anything but average. But I'm going to believe that you wouldn't lie to me. I wouldn't sugarcoat my thoughts like this. Naruto stated. The Yamanaka opened his mouth to reply, but he ended up yawning instead. The Uzumaki smirked as he laid back down in his sleeping bag. Now, get some sleep. The Jonin suggested. We're back on the move at sunrise. Yeah. Kanji shrugged his shoulders as he went back to his own bag. When the Yamanaka laid down, he was able to fall asleep almost instantly. 3 days of travel had passed quickly. Before too long, Team 9 had arrived back at the gates of Konohagakure, their mission complete and returning home. Oh, it feels great to be back home. Katsumi exclaimed. She took in a deep breath as they walked through the village before her smile grew larger. The air just smells so nice right now. Strange realization. Nothing about the air quality has changed since we've been back in Hinokuni. Your nose is probably acting up. Kanji spoke as seriously as he possibly could. Despite his tone of voice, he had a large grin on his face. Let me know if you're getting sick, so that way I can make sure to leave before I catch something. Kanji, I swear to dash, the civilian-born shinobi cut herself off as her eyes went to Hanabi, who was eyeing her curiously, before she took in a deep breath and sighed. Shut up. Just shut up. I'm trying to enjoy being back home, okay? I know you all want to go home right away, but we got some business to take care of first with the Hokage, alright? Naruto questioned. The Genin team nodded their heads in agreement as they walked through the streets of Konoha. It only took them a few minutes before they found themselves in the Hokage's office. The conversation was standard, as Naruto talked to Jiraiya about completing the mission. He mentioned briefly the situation with Kankuro and the treason accusations, but nothing more. When the formalities were finished, Naruto dismissed his genin, who quickly left the room, eager to go back home. Naruto was now alone with his godfather. His eyes moved to the man as he pulled out a scroll. Alright, so now that we're alone, let's talk. He said seriously as he placed the scroll on the desk. There's a lot of shit that went down in Suna. Yakushi Kabuto was the one responsible for that grave robbery I mentioned earlier. There's a lot more to it in that report. Jiraiya said nothing as he grabbed the scroll and started scanning its contents. His eyes widened with almost each passing word. By the time he finished, he placed the scroll down on his desk and brought his right hand to his head. Fucking Kabuto. Everything would be so convenient if we had gotten him killed back then. Jiraiya grumbled, shaking his head. We're going to have to strengthen our security even more. There's always the possibility that man could turn up here sometime. It's very likely. Although, he suggested he already has a body from this village. That's something I actually wanted to talk about. Naruto stated, crossing his arms. Jiraiya, what Uzumaki shinobi are buried here in the village? I can only recall 2 shinobi. Jiraiya's eyes widened in realization. A memory began to resurface in his head, of a conversation that Hiruzen had with him related to the fallout of the Suna-Oto invasion. Oh god. What? Naruto's face dropped as he brought his hands to face. Jiraiya. Please. Don't tell me. He doesn't have my mom's body on him, does he? My mom's body is right where it always has been, right? Please. Naruto. I can be fully honest with you. He does not have your mother's body. Jiraiya answered. Immediately, a sigh of relief escaped Naruto's lips. He doesn't have her. Thank God. Naruto, while I understand you must have been worried about your mother and her corpse, it would have been better if he had Kushina's body. Jiraiya stated sharply as a dark look developed on his face. His right hand gripped onto his desk hard, causing some of the wood to come off. He has Uzumaki Mito's body. He has the corpse of the strongest Uzumaki shinobi, the original Jinchuriki key to the Kyubi no Kitsune, and the wife of the Shodei Hokage at his grasp for his research. Immediately, the sinking feeling returned to Naruto's face as he realized the extent of Jiraiya's words. He felt a strong urge to vomit at the thoughts running in his head. Kabuto. I am going to kill you. I am going to fucking kill you. He internally snarled. Yakushi Kabuto smirked as he heard thumping footsteps stepping on gravel. He had been waiting at the meeting point, the same cave that he and Sasori had last met in Kaze no Kuni, for at least a full day and was finally excited to make progress. He waited patiently, his eyes down the path, as a man slowly entered the room. It was a young-looking man with short, messy red hair and gray-brown eyes, wearing the standard Akatsuki robes. The man walked forward directly towards Kabuto. The silver-haired shinobi eyed the man in curiosity. You aren't wearing that large puppet of yours, Sasori-sama? I'm surprised. Kabuto admitted with a smile. He bowed, almost dramatically, towards the former Suna shinobi. It's an honor to see you like this. Do not patronize me, Kabuto. Sasori replied. No longer wearing the puppet, his voice was slightly higher in tone. It conveyed a much more palpable feeling of annoyance. I'm currently working on some modifications to Hirako, so I'm not wearing him right now. Now, let's get this over with. How did your little mission go? Well, let me get the bad news out of the way first. Kabuto said as he rubbed the back of his head. Yura and Mukid are dead. Sasori's eyes narrowed. Idiots. I'm also impressed that they died after only one directive since regaining their memories. He sighed slightly before his eyes relaxed. Well, you said that was bad news. I'm assuming you have something positive to say. I do. Kabuto smirked as he pulled out a scroll. The former right hand to Orochimaru set the scroll on the ground and made a hand sign. In a pour of smoke, the body of Pakura appeared on the ground. Sasori's eyes widened as he rushed over to her body. I'm finished with my experimentation. As promised, here's a body for you to turn into a puppet. He stated. Excellent. Excellent. Sasori exclaimed as he ran his hand down her cheek. A gleeful smirk developed on his face. Her body is so well preserved. She'll make an excellent addition to my collection. His eyes then turned back to Kabuto. I've already converted the Kaguya into a puppet and he's most formidable. Deidara and I sparred and I was able to take him by surprise with the puppet. His abilities make him most advantageous. I know Pakura will be just as useful. I am pleased to hear that. Kabuto smiled in response. On the topic of Akatsuki, I wanted to ask you something, Sasori. What exactly are your goals with the organization? They're an ends to a means. He explained simply. I intend on living forever and was simply recruited by the one man who has ever been able to beat me into combat. It was more advantageous for me to aid him in cause than simply forfeit my life. You are referring to Pain, correct? Kabuto questioned. Sasori's eyes narrowed on him. I'd question how you know that name, but I am assuming Orochimaru mentioned him before. Precisely. There's a lot that interests me in him, but the thing I am most interested in his end goal to create a new world of peace. And I don't like it. Kabuto adjusted his glasses. I'm concerned of the possibility that, in his new world, someone like you or me would be considered a threat to peace. He would certainly not like the idea of immortal beings that could outlive him and potentially create chaos in the political vacuum that would occur after his death. You're claiming to have immorality. Sasori's eyebrow rose. No, not yet at least. But that will come in time, given more research. Kabuto dismissed, a smirk developing on his lips. I noticed that's the first comment you focused on. Not the open concern and threat that I made about your leader. Your statement is valid. I am also concerned about an eventual altercation with Pain. If his plan were to succeed, I would be a sitting duck for him to kill if he ever felt reason to distrust me. However, I am certain that he would have no reason to distrust me. I have been loyal to Akatsuki since joining. The redhead's eyes narrowed on the man in front of him. What exactly are you offering, Kabuto? I discussed a partnership the last time we met. I want to make an end goal sort of established. Kabuto said as he placed a hand of his own on Pakura's body. He quickly sealed it back into the scroll and picked it up. You and I are both similar in our pursuits and passions. I am dedicated to a life of science and research, intending to obtain immortality to continue Orochimaru-sama's research and master all ninjutsu. You are dedicated to art and making your body and your work last forever. All I am suggesting is that you and I look out for each other to make sure we both can live forever and accomplish our goals. A scowl developed on Sasori's lips. I have no intention of betraying Akatsuki. And I have not been trying to get you to betray your organization. In the present moment, I have no conflict with Akatsuki. Kabuto answered. All I'm asking for is for you to look after my back. In exchange, I can provide you with more bodies to convert into puppets. For now, though, please just consider having a separate partnership with me. One that will not conflict with Akatsuki's goals, but will prove all the more beneficial to your real end goal for life. Sasori said nothing as he brought his hand to his chin in thought. He was loyal to Akatsuki. Kabuto's remarks were concerning to him and presented the silver-haired shinobi as a potential threat to the organization. However, he was right, Kabuto's end goal was more aligned with his own. Working with Kabuto, so long as he did not go against Akatsuki, would be beneficial to him. The former Suna shinobi watched Kabuto extend the scroll with Pakura's body towards him. After another second of thought, Sasori reached forward and grabbed the scroll, a smirk on his lips. So long as you are not a threat against Akatsuki, I will work with you. He stated. I promise, I will be no threat. As a matter of fact, I could maybe be an ally to the organization, if they were interested. Kabuto's smirk became malicious. Chapter 67, Hayashi's Gambit. Naruto left the Hokage's office in a bad mood. He hurried out into the streets of Konoha and began to walk forward, his hands in his pocket. He took in a deep breath, mentally trying to calm himself down. Kabuto has Mito's body. I have no clue what he's going to do with it. The Uzumaki clan doesn't necessarily have a bloodline, we do have an inherent talent for Fuinjutsu that people say run through our blood. Can Kabuto actually obtain skill in Fuinjutsu just through Mito's DNA? He wondered. I have to assume he can. Ugh, he needs to be tracked down and killed. I know Masaka Doji-san will be pissed when he hears about all of this. Ugh. He groaned, shaking his head. I'll stress about this later. There's nothing I can do about all this right now. With a deep sigh, Naruto tried to push away his thoughts on Kabuto as he continued to walk through Konoha. It took him 10 minutes to arrive at his destination, the Hyuga clan estate. After greeting the Hyuga branch family members at the entrance, he walked onto the estate. At first, the blonde was heading towards the main branch family's building, but he stopped when he saw a figure in his peripheral vision. He turned his head, facing the clan's garden, and saw Hanabi lying down in the grass. He saw Hebihiro was coiled up next to her, almost asleep. A smirk developed on his face as he walked towards her. So the first thing you do when you get back home from a mission is to just lay in the grass? Naruto questioned her. How interesting, I guess. Hanabi immediately sat up in surprise at the voice. The snake uncoiled itself and looked over at Naruto as well. It's not the first thing I did. I said hi to my family and had a good meal, just saying. Hanabi stated, crossing her arms. I'm just resting down now. You had time to say hi to everyone and eat? Jesus, how long was I talking to Ero Sennin? Naruto shook his head before eyeing the snake. Feel good to be back in Konoha. Yes. The snake replied with a smile as he laid his head back down. The grass feels a lot nicer than the coarse sand of Suna. Plus, there's less people here. That's fair. The Jonin nodded his head in understanding. The little snake spoke very little during their time in Suna. He was a rather shy creature, and being surrounded by plenty of unknown shinobi, many of whom that were incredibly strong, must have been intimidating. Well, at least we're back home now. We all can rest easy. Exactly. Hanabi nodded her head in agreement. A playful smile then developed on her lips as she looked at her Jonin-sensei. So, I think I know why you're here. Trying to find my sister. Yup. Naruto replied, rubbing the back of his head. She's in her room, yeah? No. Naruto's eyes widened at the sound of Hinata's voice. I'm right behind you. Before he could say anything, he felt arms surround his chest, pulling him back slightly. A large smile developed on his face as he turned around to see Hinata standing there, with an equally large smile. He quickly returned her hug and kissed her passionately, which she was eager to return. It took a couple of seconds before they broke apart. It's good to see you again, Hinata-chan. It's great to see you too, Naruto-kun. Hinata replied. All right, you two should go get a room. Hebihiro and I were here first. Hanabi said. A small blush developed on both Jonin's faces as they chuckled in response to her teasing. Naruto was about to say something else, but he then noticed something different about Hinata. The Hyuga usually wore her forehead protector over her neck, but today, she wore it over her forehead. He gave the girl a quizzical look. You're wearing your forehead protector different. He noticed. I haven't seen you ever wear it like that. She said that she was just trying something different when I asked her. Hanabi stated. I did tell you that, Hanabi. However, I must admit, I lied. Hinata said sheepishly. The smile seemingly widened on her face as her hands moved to the forehead protector and adjusted it. Now that Naruto-kun's here, though, I can show you what has happened. Huh? Naruto blinked in confusion. What do you mean, what has happened? Hinata did not verbally reply to Naruto's question. Instead, she reached to the back of her head and untied the forehead protector. She proceeded to hold onto it with her left hand. Her right hand then moved upwards, holding up her bangs and showing off her forehead for Naruto and Hanabi to see. Both stared at her in surprise. Displayed nicely on her forehead was a blue-colored seal that depicted a closed eye that was enclosed in a fire. Hinata-san, is that? Hanabi was unable to finish her sentence. She simply looked at the seal, her hands placed over her mouth in shock. Yes. It is. She replied, smiling. The seal was finished. Masakado-san finished the seal yesterday. A large smile developed on Naruto's lips as he looked at in approval. It's official, then. You're that much closer to your dream, then. It's finally happening. Well, I still got a few more things left to do. Hinata admitted, her smile dropping ever so slightly. Niji-san and I still have to dash. I know you all have to do all that political crap with your clan still, but you've got the most important part done already. Naruto interrupted her, grinning. The part you couldn't really control is finished. Now, all that's left for you to do is convince your clan. And I know you can do that. I hope. It's what I'm going to try and do, even if it kills me. She replied. You're going to accomplish it? Her boyfriend continued to say, still grinning. I'm so happy for you. Come on, let's go celebrate. Before Hinata could even speak, Naruto had grabbed her hand and was already leading her out of the estate. And Naruto-kun. She nearly tripped from his sudden jerking of her. She proceeded to catch herself, however, and followed him at her own, natural pace, giggling at his antics. I missed you. And I missed you too. He said cheerfully. Hanabi waved goodbye to the two as they headed out of the estate. When both Jonin were long gone, she proceeded to lay back down in the grass. Her eyes went to the clouds, but her mind was preoccupied. Hanabi. Hebihiro called her name. She didn't immediately recognize that the snake had even said something, at first. So, the new seal is ready. I should probably get marked with it too, then. She realized. A confused look etched onto the younger Hyuga's face. So, what's going to happen now, though? Will the elders be okay with all of this? Hanabi was not going to bother her sister right away, she knew that she deserved her moment with Naruto. However, she had a lot of questions for her, Niji, and her father, and she was hoping the answers would not scare her too much. So, how did your students take being outside of the village, Naruto? Shikamaru questioned the blonde. While Naruto and Hinata did want to spend time to themselves, and they did go out to eat alone, Naruto did want to see both Shikamaru and Dosu as well. Therefore, when they finished, the two met up with their other two friends at Doso's apartment. The apartment was rather neat, clean, and stylish. Doso styled his living room and kitchen with various antiques that he found, a nice katana from Tetsu no Kuni that allegedly had been owned by a famous samurai, kabuki masks from various villages and countries displayed and labeled nearly on a shelf, and a large bookcase made of finely crafted wood that was filled with books and scrolls, amongst other things. Naruto, Hinata, and Shikamaru were sitting on a couch in the living room while Doso prepared tea for the group. They seemed to enjoy it. It was their first time being away from Konoha, obviously, so it was a big deal to them. They really enjoyed meeting the Kazekage. Naruto said with a chuckle. I am still surprised to hear that Gaara actually became Kazekage. Hinata noted. I am really proud of him. It was a surprise for me, believe me. But he deserves it. He's gonna do that village proud. The Uzumaki declared as he crossed his arms. And he better damn well believe I'm following his footsteps as we speak. I was about to say. With someone our age already become a Kage, it almost suggests you're slacking. Shikamaru commented as he smirked at Naruto. Better step up your game there, Naruto. You're the last one who should talk to me about slacking. Naruto shot back, smirking as well. At that point, Doso walked over to the group with a silver plate and 4 teacups. Naruto, Hinata, and Shikamaru all took a cup, thanking their friend. Doso then set the plate down, grabbing his cup, and joining the trio on his couch. Naruto's eyes moved to the former Oto shinobi and frowned. Not to dampen the mood, cause I really don't want to think much about the subject, but I do owe it to you to say it. Naruto spoke with a frown. He took a sip of his tea before he continued to speak. Yakushi Kabuto was in Suna. Doso, who was about to take a sip of the tea, immediately stopped. He set the tea down and looked over at Naruto, with no visible emotion on his face. Oh. Yeah. Naruto nodded his head. Well. Complicated the mission, I guess I could say. A frown developed on his face. Apparently he's been busy doing some experiments, acquiring Kekkai Genkai of deceased shinobi by mixing their DNA with his own. Is that even possible? Hinata spoke up, a horrified look developing on her face. I know that there are cases of someone taking the Byakugan, for example, by literally stealing the eyes from my main branch family users, but taking bloodline abilities from the DNA itself. That wasn't some claim he made up. He showed it to me in battle. The Uzumaki admitted. He has that Shikatsu Myaku ability you said that one guy who worked for Orochimaru had. He has Kimimaro's dead bone pulse. Doso closed his eye, as he began to envision the thought. That's so blatantly disrespectful. That's even disrespectful to Orochimaru. I believe that he was simply just going to let Kimimaro die in peace, from what I had heard. For Kabuto to do such experimentations on his dead body is abhorrent. I'm assuming you already told Jiraiya, yes? Shikamaru questioned. Naruto nodded his head. Good. Both he and Gaara can spread word. When info like this spreads, all shinobi villages should be taking extra precaution of guarding burial grounds or even potentially disposing of bodies, period. That would be wise. Doso nodded his head in agreement. Perhaps you could also spread this news as well. When was the last time you wrote to Kuratsuki? A little bit ago. I'm awaiting her response. Shikamaru stated, frowning slightly at the thought of his lover. I'll definitely let her know, but I'm hoping that this is something that can be handled well in IWA. That village has its own problems going on right now. Naruto looked at his friend in confusion. Oh. Apparently, the last living Kamaizuru clan members, descendants of the Shodate Tsuchikage, arrived back in the village after some personal quest or something. And they're not too happy about the alliance between Konoha and IWA. The Nara frowned. Nothing violent is going on or anything, but they're commonly speaking out against the alliance and any support for Konoha, in general. Nothing's happened, but it's creating some bad blood in IWA. IWA doesn't need any shinobi trying to recreate that bad blood between villages. Hinata shook her head. But Onaki-sama is a strong Tsuchikage and he should be able to fight back. Yeah, I figure. And Kuratsuka will help. As will Han and the rest of those guys. But it's still troublesome dealing with them. It's all political crap. Shikamaru sighed. IWA will be fine. I know it will. Naruto stated sharply. Just cause some guys returned who can't get over the past doesn't mean anything overall. IWA has changed, and for the better. Everything will be fine there. A small smirk developed on his face as he pumped his fists. Just as we'll be fine with the Kabuto situation. You know, Naruto, you are the single most optimistic person I know. Dosu stated with a chuckle. That's definitely a good thing, though. The positivity is reassuring. Damn right it is. Naruto exclaimed, smiling. Anyway, sorry to derail the mood like that. Let's get back to something else. He took a sip of tea before continuing to speak. Other than Hinata's new seal, did anything interesting happen while I was gone? The four proceeded to share stories of the different event that occurred in the past week while enjoying Dosu's tea. It was a very relaxed conversation for a relaxed environment, something that was long needed, especially for Naruto. Outside factors around the world may have caused the group stress, but just for even a moment, they were able to relax. What? Masakado screamed. Naruto winced as he took in a deep breath, feeling intimidated by the amount of killing intent and pure rage leaking out of Masakado. It reminded him of the first time that he had met the elder Uzumaki back in the temple at Uzushiogakure. Naruto's eyes then moved towards Hiruzen. The former Hokage's eyes were shut, as he was seemingly in deep thought and even deeper sorrow at the news. From a strictly conflict-avoidant perspective, it might have been wiser to have spoken to Masakado and Hiruzen separately about the incident. However, Naruto knew that he was going to have to talk to both shinobi. He also knew that Masakado, upon learning about Mito's corpse, would have immediately confronted Hiruzen. It made sense to just talk to them both together and allow Masakado to get out his rage immediately. This was Naruto's motivation for inviting Hiruzen over to discuss things with Masakado. Despite it make sense in his mind, Naruto was already regretting the decision. Hiruzen, you couldn't keep her corpse? Isn't she your Shode's wife? Isn't she the representation of the bond between Konoha and Uzushio? Masakado questioned, eyes narrowing at the man his age. How could you let this happen? This is not a defense. This is just an explanation. Hiruzen spoke softly as he opened his eyes. Kabuto acquired her corpse of the aftermath of the Tsunaoto invasion. In the resulting chaos, he was able to slip away with it. It was a moment of weakness he capitalized on. Moment of weakness my ass. This Kabuto person has the fucking corpse of Uzumaki Mito. He has no right to experiment on it, let alone acquire his DNA. Masakado snarled. How dare you let him accomplish that? How fucking dash. Masakado. Stop. Naruto spoke up. The elder Uzumaki turned his head towards Naruto, his anger changing targets. The younger Uzumaki gulped slightly before shaking his head, frowning. You need to control your anger, Masakado-ji-san. You know that it would have been possible for him to get away with it in the aftermath of the invasion. It's horrible that it happened, but don't just simply yell at the old man because of it. Masakado's glare started to subside. He took in a deep breath and was quiet for roughly a few seconds. Finally, the killing intent across the room started to fade. The man sighed before he was able to finally speak. I'll save my anger, then. I'm still pissed. I want this Kabuto's head. I want him dead if it's the last thing I do. Masakado stated sharply. Naruto, you have already spoken with Jiraiya about Kabuto's actions, yes? Hiruzen questioned. The blonde nodded his head. Good. Kabuto should be becoming a higher priority on target in the bingo book. He will be hunted down and killed. Damn right he will. The red-headed shinobi crossed his arms. And I'll be the one to fucking end him. Masakado-san, rest assured, you will have your way with him. The Sandaime Hokage said. I understand your anger. It was under my watch this happened. You're holding back your anger because of Naruto, but I fully understand it and you do not need to forgive me. I don't deserve your forgiveness. This whole incident will be one of my deepest shames, and I hope to right it. The man's eyes narrowed as he began releasing killing intent. Rest assured, Yakushi Kabuto will die. I believe you, Hiruzen. And I'm going to wait impatiently for that day. Masakado sighed, shaking his head. Mito was a good woman. She deserves better than that. That she does. Hiruzen smiled, sadly. I remember the day I first met. It was only after Hashirama-sensei had accepted me as his student. I was a stranger in their home, but she treated me as if she had known me her whole life. She was a lovely person. Had the fiery passion that all Uzumaki had, along with a deep love for all people. Masakado noted with a sad smile. I became acquainted with her shortly after Hashirama's death. She would visit Uzushio whenever she had the chance, and she saw me back then, a young man who was finally taking his shinobi career seriously. She gave me a lot of personal advice to improve myself. A slight tear developed in his eyes as he shook his head. She spent a lot of time while she was there, helping me grow stronger and improve my fuinjutsu. She seemed to know that I was finally taking being a shinobi seriously and wanted me to improve for my sake. She had other things she could have been doing, should have been doing, instead, but she just chose to help me, cause she knew I needed to help. Naruto was quiet as both Masakado and Hiruzen reflected on Mito's legacy. He listened to the two older men discuss the life and skills of the most exemplary Uzumaki shinobi to this date. Father, you are still awake. Hayashi turned his attention from a scroll he was working on. He noticed that both Hinata and Hanabi were there in the doorway to his office, looking at him. The Hyuga clan head nodded in acknowledgement, which urged the sisters to walk into his office. Both took a seat in the chairs directly in front of his desk. I am surprised to see you two awake, still. He noted, still writing. You especially, Hanabi. Don't you have training with Naruto tomorrow? I do. But I'll get enough sleep. Hanabi replied with a slight shrug of her shoulders. Hinata wanted to speak with you, though, and I'd like to be here too for it. Very well. Hayashi stopped writing in his scroll and looked up to his eldest daughter. What are you thinking, Hinata? I have an idea I would like you propose. When we convince the Hyuga elders. Hinata spoke. If. Hayashi corrected. I'm trying to find ways to appeal to them. I'm working on this scroll right now to collect my thoughts. I am aware you are. And I personally believe that we will succeed and convince them. Hinata stated with a smile. However, I have an idea about a step to take afterwards. Oh. Hayashi crossed his arms. As you are aware, this is all to unite the branch and main families together. Therefore, I think something must be done as a symbol for this unification. Hinata elaborated. The new seal will definitely pave the way, but it could also just be a sign of correcting the past. There needs to be a way to show them that the future is going to be changed. And I assume you have a suggestion to show the branch family of this unified future. Her father questioned. She nodded her head. This is something I told Hanabi just now, and I'd like you to hear it too. She took a deep breath in before finishing her sentence. I'd like for you to claim Niji as the next heir of the Hyuga clan. Hayashi's eyes widened. He brought his hands together as he looked at his daughter, processing her words fully. I've put some thought into this. Hinata admitted. I actually think the elders will be okay with this, as I think Niji has always had a better reputation in their eyes than I have. Even if they may now give me praise for my strength as a shinobi, I know they still view my personality as not ideal for a Hyuga clan head. They'd be supportive of this act. As would the branch family. It would be a sign that our clan is changing for the better. They would acknowledge that, maybe just as much as the new seal. I see your logic. Hayashi commented. A small, sad smile developed on his lips. You would make an excellent clan head, Hinata. I can see it now more clearly than I ever could have hoped years ago. Are you certain this is what you feel is best? I do. She nodded her head. A smile of her own developed on her face. Besides, I feel as if Niji will be able to handle clan politics better than I can. He'll be an even better clan head. Hayashi then turned to face his second daughter, and what are your thoughts on everything, Hanabi? I'm in support. Hanabi said as she bit her thumb. I just want our clan to have a better relationship with each other. Whether that means Hinata-san or Niji as the clan head doesn't matter. Whatever happens, I just want our clan to be more united. A smile developed on the elder Hyaga's face. He looked upward for a brief moment. Hisashi, can you hear this? Your son, the clan head of the Hyaga clan. Tears started to fall down Hayashi's face. I wish you could see this, Hisashi. This will be official, then. Once we have discussed with the elders and get this confirmed, we will make it known. Niji will become the new heir to the Hyaga clan. Hayashi noted. His eyes then moved to his daughters. With that in mind, though, do you two have any personal plans? I simply want to become the best shinobi I can and do whatever I can to help the village and our clan. Hinata said, smiling. I intend on also getting my own genin squad sometime and helping them grow stronger. You should strive higher, Hinata. You have the strength to be an Umbu or the Jonin commander of the village. Don't sell yourself short. Hayashi informed her, smiling. His eyes then moved towards Hanabi. And you, Hanabi? I'm still figuring that out. Hanabi admitted, frowning. Naruto-sensei is helping me develop as a shinobi and I intend on following through with his advice in hopes to develop even further, both as a shinobi and as a person. She tapped her fingers together as she started to look downward slightly. Naruto-sensei actually recommended medical ninjutsu as a field I might interesting, and I intend on looking into it more. Really? Hinata looked at her sister in surprise. He never mentioned that to me. You never mentioned that to me before. Are you interested? Maybe. The younger Hyaga admitted. Her frown started to twist upwards into a smile. I want to at least see. A Hyaga has never been a medical shinobi before. It's not considered a traditional career route. Hayashi noted, bringing his hand to his chin. If you follow through with it, though, I expect for you to become one of the best medical shinobi this village has ever seen. Hanabi nodded her head in understanding, giving her father a determined look. Understood. Heh. Hayashi chuckled slightly. You two have grown into such strong women. Your mother would be so proud of you both. Conversation ended shortly afterwards. Hinata and Hanabi bid their father good night while he remained in his office, continuing to work on his scroll. Regardless of whatever happens, all three family members felt closer than ever, and that was, at the very least, an important development. The next day came rather quickly for the members of Team 9. The group arrived at Training Ground 9 early in the morning, ready to train as hard as possible. Naruto worked his students hard, with an initial rough warm-up exercise, doubling the number of sit UPS, push UPS, pull UPS, and laps around the training ground that he normally had them do. Upon completion, he introduced his genin to water walking. While all three initially struggled with it, after an hour and 20 minutes of straight practice, they were starting to get the handle of it. Once they finished, he moved on to other chakra exercises. 2 hours had passed and Naruto's genin were completely exhausted in ways they had never been before. Despite that, though, they seemed pleased with themselves and eager to continue. After giving them another 5 minutes to rest, Naruto created 2 clones. Kanji and Hanabi both went the 2 clones while the original Naruto remained with Katsumi. Okay, so for private training today, what did you want to work on? Katsumi questioned excitedly. I'm ready for anything. It's about time we tried doing some Kenjutsu training. You already said you wanted to practice with it, so let's get started. Naruto suggested. Gotcha. The civilian-born Kunoichi stated as she reached for her wooden sword. Naruto shook his head, which caused her to stop reaching for it. She looked at him in confusion. Huh? What's up? I think I said that you really shouldn't be using a wooden sword, especially now that you're a shinobi. That's not going to do you much good in a fight. You'll need something a bit more practical. Naruto explained as he reached into his pocket. Before Katsumi could question him, the Jonin pulled out a scroll and tossed it to her. After she caught it, the scroll unsealed itself. Katsumi's eyes proceeded to widen. After the resulting smoke from the seal faded away, she noticed she was now holding onto a nice-looking steel sword. The hilt was colored gold and had the Konoha leaf symbol on the grip. There was also 2 small dark green-colored gems on the crossguards. Oh my god! Katsumi mumbled to herself as she ran her hand over the blade. While she was being careful not to cut herself, she could tell that the sword was rather sharp. Remember my cousin Masamune? The one who was involved with your graduation exam? Well, he's a blacksmith. And before we left to Suna, I requested this from him. Naruto said with a smirk. He's kinda a stylish guy, so I had to get him to make something practical instead. I think the sword works well. Without verbally replying, Katsumi put her hands on the sword's grip. She then swung the sword. She was surprised at how easy it was to swing it. It's kinda light, if I recall correctly. It's a pretty good practice sword. There's probably sharper out there, but it'll help you attack quick and I think could be a good place to start learning. The Uzumaki noted. So? Thoughts? Katsumi continued to say nothing. She turned her attention to Naruto. Tears began to roll down her eyes as she looked at him with the brightest, widest smile he had ever seen on her face. Naruto-sensei, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Katsumi told him. Her hand twitched, as if she was going to rub her eyes and wipe away her tears, but she resisted. In that moment, it looked as if she was never going to let go of her grip on the sword. Don't thank me. Just consider it as a task from me to you to get better. The blonde rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I just want you to get stronger, you know. I know. But you're the first person to ever really believe that I can grow stronger and be a great shinobi. No one has ever told me things like you have. She stated. Her grip on her sword tightened as the civilian-born shinobi looked at him with even more determination. And I'm ready to do whatever it takes to prove you right. So, let's get right into training. Naruto was quiet for a moment as he looked at his student. He shook his head, chuckling slightly. She reminds me a ton like me. Maybe she'd be me if I never had met Hinata and Shikamaru, and the person I met that really cared about my development was Anko-sensei. Well, then let's get right into it. Naruto declared. Immediately, he pulled out another scroll and proceeded to unseal a basic-looking sword. He gripped it tightly. So, I'm not a Kenjutsu specialist at all, but I did research on the basics and stuff. Let's begin practice. We're going to start with proper swinging and then we'll work our way from there. Okay. Got it. His student exclaimed. Lightning style, spider web. Kanji read the name of the scroll that Naruto's clan had given him with intrigue. Kanji, you're a strategist, so I wanted to give you a jutsu that you could find useful for your fighting style. Naruto's clone stated. This jutsu, like its weird name suggests, creates an electrical surge throughout the ground that forms a spider web pattern that automatically electrocutes anything it comes into contact with, other than you of course. It lasts for however long you wish for it to, and you aren't rooted in place when using it either. I presume this can help me position myself on a battlefield better. The Yamanaka noted. Help me lock off certain areas of the battlefield from my opponent and make it easier for me to corner them and make it harder for them to reach me. Yup. The clone nodded its head. Kanji smirked as he began to unravel the scroll. Alright then, let's take a look at how to use the jutsu. Then I'll decide whether or not it's worth using. There was a pregnant pause for a moment. Kanji looked at the clone with a shit-eating grin on his face. The clone was silent for a moment before it sighed, shaking its head. Look Kanji, you know the original me likes your puns. But I have to say, that one was kinda pushing it. It stated sharply. Meh. Kanji frowned. He shook his head before focusing his attention back to the scroll. In all seriousness, let's begin this. I'd be really curious to learn this jutsu and make it work. Alright, Naruto-sensei, let's get back to reviewing medical ninjutsu. Hanabi declared passionately to the clone. Whoa, aren't you excited? The clone said with a chuckle. You always just seemed interested, now you seem passionate about it. For the briefest of seconds, a pink blush developed on Hanabi's face at having her excitement called out. It faded away, however, as she looked at her Jonin-sensei with determination. She pumped her fists together. I spent a lot of time studying the scrolls last night and I think I'm ready to start trying to heal something, she stated. She did. She told me about it all this morning. Hebihiro commented. Okay. I gotcha. Naruto's clone stated with a chuckle. If I knew you were ready to practice genuine healing, I would have had the original be with you, cause as a clone, I can't really injure myself and give you something to practice with. And personally speaking, I'd rather you not injure yourself or Hebihiro just for practice. It then started to rub his head in confusion. Then again, I think you're supposed to practice with small animals like fish or birds before you work your way up to healing humans anyway. So I guess tomorrow, I'll start working on getting stuff ready for it. Oh. Gotcha. Hanabi noted with a slight frown. Do you have any ideas of something we could work on then, instead? Well, I had an idea for a jutsu I know how to use. Your other teammates know how to use elemental ninjutsu related to their elements and I think it's about time you learn something yourself. The clone replied as it tossed Hanabi a scroll. Hanabi grabbed the scroll and proceeded to read the title, Earth Style, Rock Gun. It's a fairly basic jutsu. One of the easier Earth Style jutsu to practice with. And I think it can give you at least some jutsu foundation when you must fight from a little bit of distance, you know. Naruto's clone suggested. So, we'll work on this today. And we'll get you working on your medical ninjutsu ASAP as well. That good? Yes. Hanabi nodded her head as she opened the scroll. So, let's get started. When training completed, and after handling a few basic missions from the Hokage, Team 9 disbanded for the day. Upon finishing everything up, Naruto proceeded to meet up with Hinata. The two shinobi proceeded to walk through the village, with seemingly no destination in mind. They were incredibly focused today in their training. I have never seen them like that before. Naruto exclaimed. It was actually kinda cool. They keep up this level and I think they might become Chunin level shinobi in about a month tops. That's good to hear. Hinata said, smiling. I'm certain that it's because of the mission in Suna, though. After our first C-rank mission was when we started to take our training more seriously. I'm certain it's the same for them. Yeah, probably. I'm just impressed, I guess. Kanji and Hanabi already learned the jutsu I wanted them to practice in our brief training sessions and Katsumi seemed to learn the basics of Kenjutsu in no time. Pretty soon, she's gonna know more than what I can teach her. He proceeded to rub the back of his head, chuckling. I'm probably gonna have to ask for lessons for her maybe. Might also see if I can get Shikamaru to work with Hanabi. For her medical ninjutsu? Hinata questioned. You didn't tell me you were going to have her work on that, by the way. I didn't? Whoops. Naruto smiled at his girlfriend sheepishly. That wasn't meant to be a secret or anything, I just forgot I guess. Hanabi just seemed like she didn't know what she wanted to do, so I thought I'd introduce her to something that she probably had never thought about before and seeing if she'd be interested. Believe me, she seemed interested when we talked last night. The Hyuga said. I hope she follows through and is interested, though. I'd like for Hanabi to have an interest like that. I know she'd be breaking with tradition in your clan, but man, fuck your traditions. The Uzumaki replied. Hinata giggled in response, that has been a motto of mine for a while now. Oh? That phrase specifically. Didn't know you liked to swear that much, then. Naruto replied, snickering. Best hope I don't tell your sister. His girlfriend quickly shook her head, still giggling, please don't. She was about to say something else, but both she and Naruto were stopped as a figure appeared directly in front of them, a Hyuga clan shinobi. Hinata-sama, I have been looking for you. The man quickly stated. Your father has requested your presence. Hinata tilted her head in confusion. Do you know what for, Ko? Not the specifics, but he arranged a meeting with the clan elders and requires both yours and Niji's presence. The man, Ko, answered. Huh. She nearly choked in response. Already? Wasn't he still working on his speech? He's ready. Is that for what I think it is? Naruto spoke up, a smirk on his face. His hand went to Hinata's shoulder, giving it an affectionate squeeze. You'll do great, Hinata. Believe in yourself and your father and cousin. Hinata was quiet for a second before she turned back to Naruto, smiling. She nodded her head in agreement. Here's hoping. With a quick hug and kiss goodbye, Hinata left, following KO towards the Hyuga clan estate. Her boyfriend waved to her as she left. Upon arriving at the estate, Hinata was directed to the Hyuga clan's meeting room. The room itself was rather bare. The room was made with a green-colored wood and sliding doors made of similar colored wind. No decoration or furniture was placed in the room. The only things of note were the floor mats that were scattered neatly. 10 mats were placed on the left side of the room, 2 mats was placed on the right side, and a singular mat was placed directly in the center of the room. As she walked in, Hinata noticed that she was the last one to arrive. Her father and cousin were already sitting on their respective mats, the singular one in the center and one of the 2 mats to the right, respectively. The left side was all filled with 10 Hyuga clan elders. At the center was Hyuga Yoshikane, whose eyes were watching her intently as she entered the room. My apologies for my tardiness. Hinata bowed her head as she quickly took a seat on the mat next to Niji. There is nothing to apologize for. We were unaware that this meeting was occurring. One of the clan elders commented as he looked at Hayashi. Well? Your daughter is here. Can we begin this? Of course. Hayashi said. He reached into the pocket of his robe and quickly pulled out a scroll. He set the scroll down in front of him. I would like for us to discuss our clan's infamous caged bird seal. In what regard? Another elder spoke up, her eyes narrowing. I would like to discuss its necessity. Hayashi continued. The seal has been in our family's tradition for centuries as the means to preserve the Byakugan within our bloodline, preventing assailants from stealing the power of our dojutsu. Word has spread recently of a man that has been going around stealing Kekkai Genkai from other villages. Yoshikane spoke up, a scowl on his face. Our clan's policy is pertinent. A Byakugan will surely never develop in that fiend's collection of bloodlines. The seal is indeed necessary to help us keep the Byakugan from following into the wrong hands, but that's not its only effect. It helps divide our clan into 2 separate families. The clan head stated. This again. A clan elder questioned, looking as if he was about to yawn. Hayashi-san, we have discussed this. The only division in our family is a practical one. The main family helps run the clan while the branch family performs missions and earns the clan its reputation. It allows for 2 separate entities to exist that can focus on one aspect of our clan and help the overall image of our clan grow brighter. That may be true, but the seal also serves to control the branch family. Hinata spoke up, before her father could. Why else would the side effects to their brain be placed within the seal? It's the nature of the seal, itself. It was designed that way in its tradition. It's just a side effect of an effective seal. The same elder replied, shrugging his shoulders. It just so happens to also be a useful tool to rein in any rebellious branch family shinobi. Niji's hand went to his mat instinctively and squeezed it. He closed his eyes, making sure to bite his tongue. That may be, but I do personally believe that those additions serve as simply a way to create animosity between the families. Hinata continued to speak, frowning. And I agree with my daughter. Hayashi spoke up. I also think it's impractical. After all, main branch family members have their Byakugan unsealed, and if we were to die, someone could steal the Byakugan. As Hinata has once said, there is a man in Kirigakura that acquired a Byakugan from killing a main branch Hyuga. Hayashi, quit beating around the bush. Yoshikane spoke up, crossing his arms. What are you getting at? Are you suggesting that all main branch shinobi be marked as well? In a manner of speaking, yes. Hayashi replied as he opened the scroll, revealing Masakata's design. I would like to propose a new seal to be implemented. Excuse me? One elder nearly gasped. New seal. Another exclaimed. That's. Hayashi, what are you thinking? A third elder nearly hissed. 9 of the 10 Hyuga elders began to quickly discuss amongst themselves the mere idea of a new seal. The 10th elder, Yoshikane, merely closed his eyes. A scowl developed on his face as he shook his head. What Hayashi-sama is thinking is to unite the clan. Niji spoke up, silencing the bickering of the elders. He wants the clan to move forward together as one and work together in unity, as one family. As such, this new seal accomplishes the same goal as the first, helping keep the Byakugan out of the clutches of enemy shinobi, without causing division in our family. Yoshikane quickly lifted his right hand, making a hand sign. Hayashi and Hinata both flinched initially at the action, but Niji had no reaction. He stayed sitting, nothing occurring. Yoshikane quickly lowered his hand. You have this new seal already. Yoshikane noted. Niji nodded his head as he untied his forehead protector, revealing the new seal. Hinata quickly untied her forehead protector as well. As do I. Hinata added. As should all Hyuga shinobi. The elders were silent as they stared at both Hinata and Niji. Yoshikane's eyes narrowed on the two as he proceeded to shake his head. And are you certain that this seal will work beyond death? That the seal will keep the Byakugan sealed after death? He questioned. If you wish to see if it does, you can strike me down now and see if this new seal is effective. Niji offered. And Niji and I-san. Hinata turned her head towards the man. Both the branch family Hyuga and the former clan head locked eyes with each other. Both stared deep into each other's very being as silence filled the room. A few seconds passed by before Hayashi interrupted the silence as he wrapped up the scroll. That will not be necessary, Niji. The seal is the work of Uzumaki Masakado, the Sandai Mizukage and arguably the most prolific seal master in the elemental nations. There is no doubt that the seal will work. Hayashi said. Uzumaki Masakado, huh? An elder noted the name. The seal must work, then. But is it worth it to switch? Another commented. It's going against tradition. That seal has been passed down for centuries. But if a better seal is designed, should we not switch? The elders again began discussing amongst themselves. Yoshikane, however, did not participate in their discussion. The former clan head of the clan stood up from his mat and looked down on his son, and then towards his grandchildren. He proceeded to shake his head. Regardless of noble intentions, this clan goes against the very traditions of the clan. You can't simply change our customs like this, Hayashi. He stated. This seal is our clan's tradition. This isn't a mere change. It's a correction. Hinata said sharply. A correction, you say? Yoshikane's eyes narrowed on the girl. What a bold statement to make. You've always been a rebellious girl, haven't you? Someone who seems to reject the very nature of what it means to be a Hyuga. Someone like you is not fit to be in the main branch, let alone the clan head. Regardless of your opinion, Hinata-sama is in line to become the next clan head. Niji spoke up, proceeding to stand up as well. You are forgetting that, while the clan head has authority, it is the role of the elders of a clan to make sure that the clan head does not do anything irrational or act in a manner that goes against the clan's best interest. Yoshikane continued. Regardless of whether you think it is in the clan's best interest to stay divided, and whether you like it or not, Hinata-sama and I are the examples of the next generation of the Hyuga clan are like. And we can prove to you that it is indeed a bright future. Oh. Yoshikane tilted his head. Would you care to demonstrate this? We would be honored to. Hinata stated as she got up, standing side by side her cousin. What would you recommend? I'd like to see you demonstrate that in combat. The Hyuga elder stated. All eyes moved towards the man. The other Hyuga clan elders were staring at the man in surprise while Hayashi, Niji, and Hinata were looking at him with narrowed eyes. What are you suggesting, Yoshikane-sama? One of the elders suggested. I wish to see if this future is strong enough. Yes. That's it. That's what shall happen. The former Hyuga clan leader crossed his arms as his eyes gazed upon his grandchildren. You want our support and approval of this new seal, yes? Then earn it. Tomorrow, I wish to spar with you both. 2 against 1. Hinata questioned. Regardless of anything, that puts you at a disadvantage. I will have an accomplice that will fight with me, a shinobi I know that can fight at a high level. Yoshikane stated, crossing his arms. You two wish to present yourselves as the future of the Hyuga clan. Then I demand you to prove it to me. Incapacitate me and my aide tomorrow and I will give my full support towards this new seal. I also believe that the other elders will back up my support if your demonstration is satisfactory, yes. The other clan elders seemed taken aback by the former clan head's statement. They were silent for a moment before they all nodded their heads. We will follow Yoshikane-sama's lead. If you can earn his support, we will support the new seal as well. One elder spoke collectively for the rest. This is fine. I accept. Hinata stated. As do I. Niji nodded his head in agreement. Then it's official. Hayashi spoke as he stood up. Tomorrow, I'll make arrangements in the clan dojo for a spar. No need. I'll make the arrangements. Yoshikane stated sharply. I'm certain that I can get the space for the Chunin exam finals open for tomorrow. His son looked at the man in surprise. You wish for an arena that large? For just a spar. I don't wish for your daughter and nephew to treat this as a spar. I want to see them fight their hardest for their seal. I want to see this passion that makes them feel as if their path is the correct path for our clan's future. The elder stated sharply. His eyes then moved towards his grandchildren. I am an immovable wall. I have my vision of the Hyuga clan and I refuse to back down on it. If you wish to get me change my mind, then physically force me to. Hinata's eyes narrowed into a glare, then we will. Hyuga Yoshikane left the Hyuga clan estate roughly an hour after midnight and proceeded to walk towards Konoha's market district. It had been a fairly easy task to rent the Chunin exam stadium, it was not being used and Jiraiya was very open to the clan using it for a moment. The elder had only one last preparation to make for the fight the next morning. Yoshikane moved through the empty, moonlit streets until he reached a Western-style restaurant that was closed for business. Despite the sign on the door, the Hyuga proceeded to place his hand on the door and channeled his chakra. After a few seconds, a clicking noise could be heard. He then reached for the door and walked right in. Inside the empty restaurant, sitting at a table, was a lone figure, a rather frail, elderly man. The man wore a white shirt with a black robe over it that went down past his feet. He had bandages over his forehead, just underneath his spiky black hair, that also covered his right eye. The man also used a cane, seemingly to help himself stand. I hope I haven't kept you waiting here for long, Danzo. Yoshikane said, giving a polite bow to the man. I have not. Danzo replied, shaking his head. I am surprised you wished to speak to me so suddenly. What is that you request, Yoshikane? You don't need to play games with me. Quit feigning ignorance. The Hyuga elder scowled. I know you have at least one or two root agents within my clan, as disgusting as that feels. I know you know exactly what I am talking about. Has word spread within your clan about what is occurring tomorrow? Interesting. Danzo mumbled as he started to move closer to Yoshikane. No. As far as I'm aware, only those in that meeting and a few main branch family members. But I know you. I know that information escapes your grasp, if it exists. He responded. Interesting. The crippled man noted. Yes. I do know about the battle you are going to have with Hayashi's daughter and nephew. Now, why did you call me here to talk about that? I have a request. Yoshikane sighed, as if he was swallowing down bile. I wish to borrow a singular root agent to fight alongside me in my fight against Hinata and Niji. Danzo was quiet for a few seconds. Yoshikane was about to speak again when he heard a very light, foreign sound, the sound of Danzo's laughter. Yoshikane, you are openly disgusted with how I run Root, but not enough that you feel above asking to borrow one of my agents for a personal conflict. I do not believe I have ever met someone as hypocritical as you. The man noted. I resent that I am asking you. Yoshikane admitted, gritting his teeth. However, I know how sympathetic the branch family's plight is and how most shinobi of the village will not ally with me in a fight. Another main branch family may, but I need someone strong enough to fight at a higher level. I know that your agent will not care about any morality, they will simply follow the orders. It hurts my pride, but I am more concerned with the effects of a new seal that I am willing to approach you. And why exactly should I feel this is necessary? I have no stake in your clan politics. Danzo noted. In addition, it would be to Konoha's benefit if all main branch members were marked with a new seal, to ensure that no enemies of Konoha could ever obtain the Byakugan. Danzo. You are a traditional man. You must understand the threat of this change to the Hyuga clan can bring. The Hyuga elder said, crossing his arms. I don't trust equalizing the relationship between the branch and main families. I am painfully aware of the hostilities between the families. Removing the main branch's control on the branch family opens the possibility of an open rebellion and coup against the main household. I know that many branch family members would be open to such a rebellion. He closed his eyes. I'll be a hypocrite. I'll be the bad guy. But I refuse to let this possibility happen. I may not be the clan head anymore, but as an elder, I refuse to watch my clan fall apart. Danzo closed his eye in thought. He remained still for a moment as Yoshikane stood still, watching him. Nearly a whole minute passed before Danzo opened his eye. He nodded his head as he slammed his cane onto the ground. As if on cue, a shinobi appeared in the room wearing an umbu mask, bowing to Danzo. Sai, this is Hyuga Yoshikane. He has a mission for you. The leader of Root stated. You will be participating in a fight alongside this man against 2 other Hyuga shinobi. I expect you to fight with your full extent of his abilities. You will follow his orders as if they were my own in relation to this battle. Understood. Understood, Danzo-sama. The Root agent, Sai, responded back. With this, I'll have all the assistance I need. Tomorrow will be a fruitful day. Yoshikane sighed in relief. His fists tightened as he turned his head back towards the entrance to the restaurant. I recognize your good intentions, Hayashi, but I refuse to let our clan potentially fight. I will resist this change, even if I have to beat it into my grandchildren for you all to understand it. Chapter 68, The Traditions and Future of the Hyuga. Naruto's eyes tensed up as he stood up from his chair and reached for a kunai, focusing on the door to the kitchen. It was roughly 5 in the morning and he had been trying to eat breakfast, but he was interrupted by the sound of loud footsteps. Someone was running around in the Uzumaki clan estate. Both Masakado and Masamune should have been asleep at this hour, and even if they were awake, they would not be running. This was someone uninvited. As the Jonin began to debate about confronting the person, his intruder entered the room. He sighed in relief upon seeing that it was Hanabi. He quickly pocketed his kunai and began to relax. Geez, Hanabi, make sure to let me know if you are going to be stopped by at random times. I almost attacked you, you know. Naruto chuckled to himself. He crossed his arms as he relaxed back into his chair. Anyway, what's up? I'm here to inform you that I'm not coming to training today. Hanabi stated. And I suggest that you cancel training altogether anyway. Huh. The Uzumaki blinked in confusion. Why? And why should I cancel? There's something more important. Hinata-san and Niji are having a big fight today with our grandfather. Hanabi stated. Naruto's eyes widened. He was about to respond, but the Hyuga continued talking. It's going to be at the Chunin exam stadium and they're fighting out grandfather over the new clan seal that your fellow clansman, Masakado, designed, and if they win, the seal will be instituted, but dash. Whoa. Hanabi. Slow down. Naruto said, frowning. So, a bit more slowly please. Hinata and Niji are fighting your grandpa about the seal? Why? What's happening? It's all about politics. Grandfather and the elders won't give their support unless they beat him. It's kinda complicated. Hanabi sighed. But you need to go. Hinata-san would appreciate your support with it. She then shook her head as she started to turn around towards the door. Anyway, the fight is at 6:30, so you need to show up. I'm going to let the rest of her friends know. And Niji's friends too. With those words, Hanabi rushed out of the room before Naruto could say or do anything. He listened carefully to her footsteps until the sound vanished, signaling she was out the compound. He sighed as he turned his attention back to his breakfast. A frown developed on his lips as he poked his rice with a chopstick. What's going on? He mumbled to himself. Hinata is going to fight her grandfather? But why? He sighed as he shook his head. He was now wondering about the specifics and, before he knew it, he was already committing to going. I'll send a clone to tell Kanji and Katsumi training is cancelled for today. They'll appreciate a day off maybe. Naruto nodded his head as he began to leave the kitchen and headed towards his room to get things together. Hinata. I have no clue what's going on, but you'll do great. Hyaga Yoshikane was the first to arrive at the Chunin exam stadium. He stood outside the building, watching the very first movement of the sun rising in the sky. He remained there until he felt a presence arrive. He turned his head in time to see Sai, looking at him with a smile. You seem well rested for a man who only had at most 5 hours of sleep, Yoshikane-sama. He greeted the man. We are shinobi. We don't need much sleep. Yoshikane replied, crossing his arms. You are right, of course. I was simply just commenting since you are no longer an active duty shinobi. You haven't been assigned to a mission in years, am I right, Yoshikane-sama? Sai continued to question. I am still a shinobi and in my peak condition, thank you very much. He replied sharply. And quit calling me Yoshikane-sama. I'm not involved with your organization. That may be true, but per Danzo-sama's request, I am to default to you for the duration of my mission. However, if you wish, I can drop the honorific, Yoshikane. Sai responded, his smile seemingly growing wider. I have a question, by the way. Is my objective to kill either of our opponents? No. The Hyaga clan elder replied. My objective is to beat it into Hayashi's head, as well as his blasted daughter and nephew, that the clan is better off without this new seal and the potential rebellion it could cause. Political decisions based on a mere fight. Interesting. Sai nodded his head in understanding. Are you afraid that if you kill one of them, the seal will reveal that it works and seal their eyes, verifying its value and making it a more logical alternative? Sai. You say you follow my orders? Until the battle starts, I'd like you to stop asking me questions. Yoshikane stated sharply. Sai nodded his head, remaining quiet, his smile still on his face. Yoshikane sighed and turned away, facing the sunrise once again. Let's get this blasted day over with already, damn it. Yoshikane growled within his mind. Hinata, Niji, today is the day you prove your resolve. This is the day you claim the future of the clan. Hayashi spoke to his daughter and nephew. I wish you luck. The clan head spoke to his daughter and nephew as they walked through the streets of Konoha. Few people were walking about in the streets, only those setting up their shops and restaurants for the day were there. We will do you proud, Hayashi-sama. Niji stated. I'm curious about who he is fighting with him. Hinata admitted with a frown. I don't really know what Hyaga shinobi would be fighting with him. I would worry less about whoever his partner is and focus on him. My father, a very slight grimace developed on Hayashi's face as he spoke that word, is not a force to be trifled with. If you ever wanted to see someone who is a master of our clan's traditional fighting style, you will find no one superior. I believe in you both, make sure to not underestimate him because of his age. Hinata nodded her head, recalling her training with Hiruzen, Koharu, and Homura. The three shinobi proceeded to walk in silence for a brief moment, their eyes focused on the road. As the stadium appeared in sight, Hinata's hands went over to her forehead protector. The Hyaga heiress proceeded to untie the forehead protector from her forehead and tied it around her neck once again, like her normal style. She turned to face her cousin and father and smiled. Her new seal was displayed nicely on her forehead. Her long hair covered the top edges of the seal, but the edge of the flame of the seal could still be seen. I had assumed you were going to wear your forehead protector to cover your seal. That's the standard for most shinobi. Niji noted. This seal is something I don't want to hide. This is why we're fighting. It's the very thing that will unite our clan. Hinata declared, smiling. I only hid it first just to keep it a surprise from the clan for now. Now that we're here, I'm never hiding it. I'll proudly display it the world. Both her father and cousin were silent, their eyes simply focused on Hinata's bare forehead. A few seconds passed by before Niji nodded his head in understanding. His hands then went over to his own forehead protector. "I hope you don't mind if I borrow that idea," he said, a small smile on his lips as well as he untied his. Like his cousin, he brought his forehead protector to his neck and tied it around it. Unlike Hinata, his hair did not hide any of his seal. The original caged bird seal and the modifications Masakado added were on display for the world to see. "Please, follow along," Hinata said, her smile growing wider. "It looks good like that, Niji and I-san." Hayashi shook his head. He could feel his eyes starting to glisten with tears, but he made an effort to resist the feeling. Even if the majority of the people of Konoha were asleep, the Hyuga clan head was in public, after all, and had an image to maintain. Naruto arrived at the Chunin exam stadium at 6:30, just on time. The blonde walked into the building and made his way to the seats for the audience. His eyes moved across the area, seeing nobody here. It was almost alarmingly empty. "I suppose this place really has no use whenever the Chunin exams are going on. It's almost eerie, though, considering all that was going on here the last time." The Uzumaki shivered, recalling that the Sunaoto invasion began in this very spot. "It almost makes this place feel haunted to see nobody here." As Naruto maneuvered his way through the seating area, he finally spotted a few occupied seats. He quickly hurried over to them, joining Shikamaru, Dosuo, Hanabi, and Mato Gai. "Looks like I'm not late," Naruto noted, smiling. "Barely not. You're just on time," Dosuo stated. Sorry. The Uzumaki rubbed his head sheepishly. His eyes then moved to Gai. "You're Mato Gai, yeah? You were Niji's Jonin sensei." "That I was. I am pleased to see that you recognized me, Naruto-kun," Gai stated, grinning widely. "Niji's younger cousin proceeded to inform me of this event and I had to come. Lee and Tenten are currently away on mission, so I must cheer loudly for Niji with the passion of the entire team for him to know that we support him." The Uzumaki blinked. For just the briefest of moments, he felt as if he could see tears falling from Gai's face and an image of a sunset, accompanied with a waterfall, flashed in his mind. He proceeded to shake his head and the image was gone. "Must be seeing things. I'm curious how this goes." Shikamaru spoke up, crossing his arms. "Hanabi, this is all about the seal? Is a fight like this necessary?" "It is." She nodded her head. "The clan elders, our grandfather, are too traditional. They need this seal beaten into them, literally." Naruto frowned. His eyes noticed a group of 9 men and women sitting in seats on the other side of the stadium, the other Hyuga clan elders. That's so stupid that they have to go to this extreme instead of just listening to reason. The system that is traditional isn't right. It's not. Hanabi sighed. But it's tradition and the clan is focused on it entirely. And it's Hinata's and Niji's job to dismantle that tradition. Shikamaru commented, crossing her arms. "Well, she is a student of Anko. I'm sure she'll do more than just dismantle it. Damn straight." Naruto crossed his arms. "She's gonna dash. I see movement. It's starting." Dosuo interrupted. The blonde shut his mouth. The group looked forward to the arena of the Chunin exam stadium in time to see Hinata, Niji, and Hayashi walk into the arena. On the other side, 2 other shinobi walked out. "Hinata, good luck." The blonde brought his hands together as he continued to watch. "Yoshikane, who is that man accompanying you?" Hayashi questioned, his eyes narrowing. "He is no Hyuga." The Hyuga clan elder turned his head, acknowledging his partner. "This is Sai. He is not affiliated with our clan, or any clan. He will be fighting alongside me today. It is a pleasure to meet you all." Sai greeted, smiling brightly at them. Hinata briefly nodded her head at the man, while Hayashi and Niji simply looked at him, only barely acknowledging his presence. "You brought a non-Hyuga here to help you resolve a clan-related issue?" Niji noted, scowling. "That seems unorthodox for someone like you. The purpose of this is for me to test you both and see if this future you propose, under the leadership and example of you two, is strong enough for me to concede to you and your ideals. Yoshikane stated sharply, crossing his arms. There is nothing unorthodox about this. I just brought someone who I know will be able to take you on. A pregnant pause took over the arena grounds. Hayashi proceeded to walk off towards the side. The four combatants watched the Hyuga clan leader for a second before they turned their attention to each other. So, what are the rules here specifically? Hinata questioned. Fight with the intent to kill. That's your only rule. Yoshikane said. The elder looked at his grandchildren with a slight smirk as he dropped into a fighting stance. Sai joined him as he proceeded to reach into a bag on his waist and pull out a scroll and an ink pen. This is my last chance for you two. Do you believe your seal is worth it? Of course. Both Hinata and Niji said in unison as they dropped into place. Yoshikane shook his head, then so be it. Come at me with all your might. Fight for this so-called change you want to bring, because I will not allow our clan to bend in its traditions. The wind blew through the arena. The sun rose slightly higher, covering the arena in a warm, light color. Byakugan. Ninja Art, Super Beast Scroll. As the three Hyuga activated their dojutsu, Sai quickly drew on his scroll. A large, ink drawing of a bird flew out of the scroll and onto the battlefield. Sai quickly jumped onto the back of the bird and flew into the air, directly above Hinata and Niji. Yoshikane, meanwhile, slammed his open palm against the ground. 8 trigrams grid palm. A green circle developed from around Yoshikane's body. It immediately began to expand outward, forming a green grid formation, resembling a spider web. Both Hinata and Niji jumped upward and landed in spots of the ground in between. They watched the grid collide with the walls of the arena before finally stopping. Yoshikane raised his palm off the ground, but the grids remained on the ground. That technique, my father knew this jutsu. Niji noted, frowning. Hinata, do not touch the grid at all. The chakra channeled throughout it will forcibly enter your body and attack your own chakra system. Hinata nodded her head. Her eyes focused on Sai, who was flying up in the air, currently drawing on his scroll. Yoshikane has already limited the fighting ground, but that's not going to affect this Sai person fighting with him. They must have worked out this strategy beforehand. Sai completed his drawings and, immediately, a flock of smaller birds flew from the sky downward, towards Hinata and Niji. Hinata immediately reached for her bow and fired arrows into the sky at the birds. The arrows managed to hit each of the smaller birds, causing them to fall to the ground as a pool of ink. While Hinata was focusing on attacking the birds, Yoshikane charged forward at her, unaffected by the grid he had created. Niji jumped forward at him, landing again on space between the grids. Both Hyuga shinobi struck at each other with their open palms, colliding against each other. Yoshikane then struck at Niji again, aiming lower. Niji parried his strike with his palm, but the strike was powerful enough to knock him back an inch backwards into the green chakra grid. A powerful spike of chakra rushed into his body, causing the branch clan member to grit his teeth from the pain. A Hyuga should be able to remain grounded. You should not allow me to push you back. Yoshikane commented, almost tauntingly as he attempted to strike Niji again. His grandson jumped into the air to avoid, landing on the ground and away from the grid. Tell me this isn't all you can do, Niji. Of course not. Niji hissed as he extended his hand outward. 8 trigrams vacuum palm. Niji released a wave of chakra from his open palm that flew towards Yoshikane. The Hyuga clan elder jumped into the air, avoiding the attack. As he was floating in the air, Hinata turned her attention towards him and fired an arrow directly towards him. Yoshikane quickly maneuvered his body midair, avoiding the attack. I hope that wasn't an attempt to catch me off guard, Hinata. He commented as he landed on the ground again. You'll need to try harder than that. I can do that. Hinata replied as her hands started to glow blue, channeling chakra. The chakra quickly channeled itself into the bow and arrow in her hands as shot a singular arrow up into the sky. Water style, never-ending arrow downpour. The arrow flew into the sky, towards Sai. The root agent flew away in time, causing the arrow to fly even higher into the sky. Once it reached a certain height, the arrow turned back around, facing downward. Water moisture in the air started to take physical form and change shape, resembling arrows as well. All the arrows proceeded to fire themselves downward. There's no opening to avoid the attack, it seems. I won't fly away in time. Interesting. Sai noted as he watched the arrows fall towards him. I'll change tactics then. This jutsu makes it pointless for me to focus on aerial combat to counter them. Sai jumped off his bird and fell to the ground just as arrows collided his bird, dissipating it instantly and causing it to form a puddle of ink. Sai fell to the ground directly onto the newly formed ink puddle, his body seemingly disappearing into it. Arrows struck the puddle again, but seemingly did not damage to him. 8 trigrams palm rotation. Both Niji and Yoshikane utilized the same jutsu, spinning their body and creating a rotating ball of chakra around themselves that kept their bodies safe from being skewered by the arrows. While both shinobi were using their jutsu, Hinata rushed forward, jumping in between spots on the grid arena floor, towards her grandfather. Any arrow that would hit her seemed to redirect itself before it could hit. As Yoshikane's jutsu subsided, Hinata jumped forward at him, her open palm extended outward, aiming for his chest. The elder jumped backwards, avoiding her attack. Niji, having finished his own jutsu, jumped next to Hinata's side. The two then extended their hands forward, their arms connected as they channeled chakra into their open palms. 8 trigrams vacuum wall palm. Both Hinata and Niji released waves of chakra that merged together, forming a massive blast of pure chakra. The combined vacuum palm smashed into Yoshikane's body and forced him back into the wall of the arena. The impact caused a loud crash, creating a giant dust cloud. Almost instantly, the grid structure of chakra began to fade away. Good work there, Dash. Niji's voice cut himself off as his eyes narrowed on the ground. Hinata. Both Hinata and Niji jumped backwards just in time as Sai jumped out from the ground underneath them, holding a tanto. He quickly swung his blade at Hinata, but she managed to sidestep, avoiding the attack. He then delivered a kick that connected, knocking her backwards. She winced in pain as she felt the air escape her breath. Niji proceeded to charge forward at Sai, aiming for his tenketsu on his back. The root agent quickly turned around and blocked Niji's palm with the hilt of his tanto. He then proceeded to jump into the air and land directly behind Niji. He attempted to kick Niji down as well, but the branch family shinobi jumped back just in time to avoid the attack. You fight well. Very well. Niji noted, his eyes narrowing on the man. Both Hinata and I have been jonin for a little while now and we've never even heard about you. How is that possible? Who exactly are you, Sai? I'm just a loyal shinobi to Konoha. Nothing more to say. Sai added with a smile. Sai sheathed his sword and reached for his scroll and ink pen. Yoshikane proceeded to jump forward from the rubble. Some blood was dripping from his face as he glared at his grandchildren. Nice trick there. Noticed you two both had to use the jutsu though to get it that strong. Yoshikane replied as he extended both his palms outward. Let me see if, by myself, I can compare. 8 trigrams vacuum wall palm. 2 massive waves of chakra rocketed forward from Yoshikane's palms directly at the two cousins. Hinata was able to jump away in time, but Niji's side was struck by the shock. He coughed up blood as he was knocked backwards into the wall of the arena as well, creating another crash with more dust clouds. Niji and I-san. Hinata exclaimed. So that older Hyuga can do the same technique that both Hinata and Niji had to do together. Shikamaru noted, frowning. This looks like it's getting bad now. I'm honestly more concerned with the other opponent. Doso said, crossing his arms. He seems to be a complete unknown and he's fighting at their level. Just who is he? He fights in a way that reminds me of Umbu agents. Guy noted. However, I am familiar with most of the current and past operatives in Umbu. I have never seen this Sai person before, nor do I recognize his fighting style. It's unique. I'd be curious to fight it. But it's concerning that I have seen him before. Naruto's eyes were focused entirely on the root agent. He watched the shinobi draw into his scroll as ink tigers came to life and charged at Hinata. His eyes widened, as realization dawned on him. Wait, I know who that guy is. I've met him once before. He exclaimed. You have? Shikamaru questioned. The Uzumaki nodded his head, remember how I marched with the rest of the Konoha shinobi on the mission in Kirigakure? Well, Sai was one of the shinobi that was there. I marched along with him. The blonde's face turned into a frown as he focused back on the battle. Never saw him fight, though. I don't really know what his skills are. That's interesting to know, Naruto. All eyes turned away from the fight at the sound of Hayashi's voice. The Hyuga clan head walked towards them and took a seat next to his youngest daughter. Father, how are you doing? Hanabi questioned, frowning. Do you think Hinata-san and Niji are going to be alright? I believe so. This is their fight, though. We have to simply trust they will be. Hayashi responded. The Hyuga clan head's eyes narrowed in on Sai. A thought entered his head as he focused on him. He was obviously a qualified shinobi if he were to have been sent on the invasion of Kirigakure mission years ago. His fighting style also reminded Matogai of Umbu operatives. However, he was also a rather secretive individual if Hinata, Niji, and even Hayashi himself had never even heard of him. A singular image of a man, and an organization, entered his head. His eyes turned to Yoshikane and narrowed in anger. Yoshikane, how dare you involve Root in this? He mentally snarled. Hinata jumped backwards as Sai's ink tigers charged in at her. The tigers kept pursuing her, moving at a relentless speed. The Hyuga heiress then jumped into the air, directly above them and fired 2 arrows at their heads. Unlike the birds, however, the 2 tigers remained standing after the attack and jumped into the air as well, trying to strike at her again. As the tigers went to bite at her, Hinata dodged midair. She positioned herself so that the tigers were directly in front of her as she extended her palm. Another vacuum wave of chakra rushed out of open palm and smacked into the tigers, causing them to finally dissipate into an ink puddle. With the tigers gone, Hinata landed back on the ground safely. Yoshikane, however, rushed at her, striking at her with his gentle fist. She proceeded to sidestep away, positioning herself behind him. She attempted to strike at his back with her open palm, but the man turned around and slammed his palm against hers, overpowering her attack. He attempted to strike her in the face, but she jumped up into the air in time to avoid the strike. Your gentle fist is weak. Yoshikane stated sharply as he turned around to face her. Your style is all based on evasion. You had to accommodate it to you, you were unable to master the actual gentle fist. A smug smirk developed on his face as he rushed at her again. How do you expect to move our clan forward if you can't even master something as simple as our clan's taijutsu? Hinata remained quiet as she simply dodged her grandfather's attacks. He continuously tried to strike at her, but the Hyuga heiress was able to jump out of the way or sidestep each and every strike. A grin developed on her lips as well. You say all of that, but you surely must notice that if I concentrate on dodging, you can't hit me. My style is based around evasiveness and quick attacks. Maybe you'll overpower me if I try to hit you, but you can't touch me otherwise. Hinata stated. You just can't acknowledge it because it's not the standard, though. You can't acknowledge anything that's not how it was when you were growing up. Brat. Yoshikane hissed. The Hyuga clan elder continuously tried to attack at Hinata, but with no avail. After another strike at her, she proceeded to jump backwards. She tried to continue to move further back, but was stopped. An ink-like snake had grabbed onto both of her feet and was preventing her from moving. Ninja art, ink flush. Sai walked over to the 2 Hyuga. I'm assuming that helps you out, Yoshikane. Humph. A small smirk developed on his lips as he changed stances. Hinata, you're within my field of divination. Hinata's eyes widened in horror. She channeled chakra to the tenketsu to her feet, trying to overwhelm the ink snakes holding onto her. She was able to accomplish that and break free, but it was too late as Yoshikane was already at her. 8 trigrams 64 palms. 2 palms. He struck Hinata and 2 tenketsu points on her shoulders. 4 palms dash. 8 trigrams mountain crusher. A large blast of chakra rushed forward through the air directly towards Yoshikane. The Hyuga clan elder noticed the oncoming attack and jumped backwards, cancelling his attack mid-technique. Niji jumped to Hinata's side. The Hyuga heiress gripped onto her shoulders and seemed to be in pain, but she looked at her cousin in relief as she smiled brightly. Thank you for that, Niji-san. She told him. Niji shook his head, smiling back at her, think nothing of it. It was poetic, watching the branch family member jumping in to save the main family. Yoshikane replied, a taunting smirk on his face. That's the way it was meant to be. That's precisely why the old seal is put into place, to ensure that loyalty. I defend her not because of the role of the branch family. That role made me resent Hinata-sama as a child. Niji replied, glaring at the man. I defend her because she is my cousin and because I respect her and her leadership. Just as she does the same for me, which is why she defended me earlier. That is how a family should function. Hinata replied, glaring at her grandfather. This is where our clan is wrong. Our clan has never changed. Not once. And it never will. Not because of your foolish ideals. Not in the face of a potential civil war your new seal could cause, as plenty of rebellious branch family members would try and assert dominance over the new main family. Yoshikane snarled. His eyes then turned towards the audience watching, facing his son. I am not allowing our clan to fall apart simply because Hayashi can't choose which of his daughters to mark with the cursed seal. I refuse. Potential civil war? Naruto frowned at the words. What's that guy talking about? It's clearly his point of view. Naturally, cause he's a traditionalist. It's justification he is giving himself as to why it is important to keep the old system in place. Shikamaru noted, crossing his arms. Dosu nodded his head in agreement, no one believes they are the bad person in their viewpoint. Wise words. Guy nodded his head as well. That doesn't change things, though. Naruto crossed his arms, his frown turning into a scowl. I don't care if he thinks he's in the right or not. The guy's objectively in the wrong on this and he's being an asshole about this. He turned his attention back to his girlfriend. His scowl turned upward, turning into a smile. Come on Hinata, show your asshole grandpa your full strength. Hanabi turned away from the fight towards her father. Hayashi had been staring at his father with widened eyes. She tilted her head in confusion. Are you okay, father? She questioned. The clan head did not respond. His hand went to his chin as he rubbed it, staring at his father. The man was focusing solely on his last words. So that's the reason. It's not any main or branch family roles, or any civil war. That's the real reason. Hayashi's widened eyes proceeded to narrow. You've become quite the bitter old man, father. It doesn't matter if you refuse to accept change. Change is coming. Hinata said sharply as she brought her hands to her side. Not over my dead body. Yoshikane snarled as he started to run through Hansings. You want your change so bad? Then fucking earn it. Earth style, stalagmite. Yoshikane stomped on the ground, causing large spiked pillars of earth to develop underneath both Niji's and Hinata's feet. The two cousins jumped backwards, avoiding the attacks. Sai then proceeded to draw rapidly into his scrolls. Multiple birds escaped from Sai's scroll, flying directly towards both Niji and Hinata. Niji jumped immediately behind Hinata as she brought her hands together, protection of the 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Hinata proceeded to move her palms rapidly around her body. Streaks of chakra began to escape from the open palm that formed a blue, circular, rotating shield around both cousins. The shield protected them from Sai's birds, that turned into puddles of ink. Sai proceeded to draw into his scroll again. 2 large tigers jumped forward from his scroll and charged at the circular orb. Just like the birds, the tigers immediately dissipated upon impact, turning back into ink. Sai proceeded to jump backwards for a moment while Yoshikane only closed his eyes and got into a stance, waiting for the time. Niji, watching from inside Hinata's jutsu, saw the stance his grandfather was entering and dropped into a similar stance. As Hinata's jutsu finished, Yoshikane charged forward at the 2 cousins. Niji rushed forward. Both shinobi struck forward at each other with the exact same palm strikes, Yoshikane's palm colliding against Niji's. 8 trigrams 64 palms. 2 palms. Both Yoshikane and Niji proceeded to strike at each other again, 4 times this time, moving faster. Once again. They proceeded to parry each other. 4 palms. 8 palms. 16 palms. Each strike was perfectly parried, with neither shinobi allowing themselves to get hit. As both shinobi continued to strike at each other, Hinata brought her hands to her side once more and closed her eyes. She began to channel chakra into her arms. 32 palms. 8 trigrams 64 palms. Both Yoshikane and Niji jumped backwards after their final strikes. Neither shinobi managed to land a decisive hit on the other. Gentle step twin lion fists. Yoshikane and Niji turned their attention towards Hinata as they noticed the sudden spike in chakra. Hinata's arms were now covered in a blue, visible chakra shroud that was shaped like lions. Yoshikane-san, you wanted to see more power from me, yes? You wanted to see me move stronger and more forcefully? To make you accept the change we intend to bring. Hinata questioned as she crouched downwards slightly, changing her stance. Then I hope this doesn't disappoint you then. Hinata then charged forward directly at the elderly man. Sai jumped directly in between, pocketing his scroll and reaching for his tanto. The rude shinobi swung his blade directly at Hinata, but she dodged in time. She swung her fist at the shinobi, but he was able to avoid the punch. However, the blue chakra shroud surrounding her hand made contact with his skin, causing Sai's eyes to widen as he felt his own chakra supply grow weaker. He jumped backwards, away from the shinobi. Interesting. I don't feel as if my chakra had been sealed. It feels drained. Sai noted as he studied the Hyaga's lion fists. What a dangerous technique. We'll have to exercise caution. With Sai momentarily out of the way, Hinata continued to charge forward towards Yoshikane. The Hyaga clan elder jumped backwards, avoiding her first attack, but Hinata kept charging forward at him, swinging again. Yoshikane brought his open palms directly in front of his face. 8 trigrams vacuum wall palm. A massive wave of chakra escaped both palms, merging together to form an even larger blast of chakra that flew towards Hinata. Hinata extended her fists forward, causing the lion heads to take the force of the attack. She bit into her lip as she was pushed backwards slightly, but she remained relatively rooted in place. She was not sent flying back to the wall of the arena. That jutsu of hers is draining the chakra of the vacuum wave itself. Unbelievable. Yoshikane gritted his teeth as he turned towards his ally. Sai. Sai nodded his head as he brought his hands together. Ink-like snakes rose up from the ground, of the puddles of his previously defeated creations. The snakes rushed forward to Hinata, grabbing her by the legs. Hinata attempted to channel chakra to her feet fast enough, but Sai's technique was too quick and she was knocked to the ground. Yoshikane proceeded to run through another set of hand signs. Earth style, stalagmite dash. Before Yoshikane could stomp on the ground and finish his jutsu, Niji jumped at him, his open palm aimed for the elder's heart. Yoshikane cancelled his technique and jumped away. This is where it's going to end. Niji stated as he dropped into his stance. You're within my area of divination. Heh. This didn't work the last time you tried. Yoshikane smirked as he dropped into the same stance. Let's see if this works one more time. The Hyaga clan elder shared a look with Sai, who nodded in understanding. The root agent, gripping his tanto, proceeded to disappear in a spiral of ink before reappearing directly behind him. Niji's stance was already fixed and he did not have the time to react properly. Sai swung his blade at his back, but before the tanto could connect, it was intercepted by Hinata's lion-shaped fist. The Hyaga heiress had overpowered the snakes holding her down and rushed over to Niji, just in time. We're finished here, she said decisively. 8 trigrams 32 palms. Hinata quickly slammed the lion fists into Sai's torso, causing him to wince in pain. Similarly, Niji and Yoshikane charged forward at each other, each attempting to strike at each other. 2 palms. 4 palms. 8 palms. 16 palms. As Niji and Yoshikane continued to duel each other, trying to land a hit on the other, Hinata was attacking Sai's body freely. The root agent was unable to get away in time. The jutsu, combined with Hinata's twin lions, were draining his chakra too fast for him to get away in time. 8 trigrams 32 palms. After launching a barrage of 32 strikes, Hinata concluded her attack. Sai immediately fell to the ground. Blood was starting to drip from his mouth and nose as he struggled to pull himself up. He, however, could not muster the strength to get up. What a ferocious attack. I can't get up. I'm in condition to fight. Sai managed to move his head just enough to see Niji and Yoshikane still fighting. 32 palms. 64 palms. Niji and Yoshikane continued to strike at each other, trying to overpower the other. By the time they finished their 64th strike, however, the two Hyuga shinobi continued to attack each other. 8 trigrams 128 palms. Both Niji and Yoshikane continued with their attack. Each strike of Yoshikane's was parried by Niji's. Each blow of Niji's was blocked by Yoshikane's. They were evenly matched. Sweat started to cover their faces as they desperately tried to overpower the other. I won't lose. I won't allow you brats to ruin our clan. I refuse. Yoshikane inwardly growled. This is it. This is the end of the outdated practices of our clan. This will fix everything. This is it. Niji's eyes narrowed. Finally, after the 128th strike, Yoshikane's attacks started to relent. Niji's, however, proceeded to continue. Horror entered the clan elder's eyes. There's no way. Yoshikane gritted teeth again, resisting the urge to scream. He tried his hardest to keep power in each of his palms. No Hyuga should ever be able to go past 128. Especially no branch family shinobi. Niji, however, continued his attacks, striking at Yoshikane with a rapid pace. The Hyuga clan elder was no longer able to fully parry, he was now taking the full force of Niji's never-ending attack. 8 trigrams 256 palms. Niji sent Yoshikane flying backwards with the final, 256th palm. The Hyuga clan elder rolled on the ground before remaining flat on his back. He proceeded to reach for the floor of the arena and tried to pull himself off the ground, but before he could stand up the entire way, Hinata rushed over to him and grabbed him by his robes with her right hand, no longer covered in the blue lion-shaped chakra shroud. The mission was a failure. Sai mentally noted. It's over. She told him definitively, speaking with no emotion. Absolutely not. Yoshikane shook his head. He closed his eyes and tried to channel chakra, but his entire chakra system was completely sealed after Niji's technique. As he tried to force open his tenketsu, he felt Hinata's grip on his throat tighten, causing him to wince. Please. It's over. Hinata stated. Just admit defeat. I refuse. Despite his pain, despite his inability to fight, the Hyuga clan elder refused to back down. He proceeded to glare at his granddaughter. You want your future so badly? Kill me. Kill me now. Hinata's eyes lightened ever so slightly. She shook her head as she let go of Yoshikane's neck. The man fell to the ground back onto his back. He winced in pain. Niji jumped next to Hinata's side. He looked over at his grandfather coldly. You can't fight. You know this. Niji stated. Even so. Yoshikane pulled himself slowly off the ground. Despite his efforts, he fell back to the ground again. I refuse to dash. It's because of your own kids, isn't it? Hinata interrupted. Yoshikane looked at his granddaughter in surprise. I believe you. I do believe that you think the branch clan maybe would revolt against the main family. But that's not the only reason why you're so resistant. It's because you're jealous. What are you talking about? Yoshikane hissed as he continued to struggle back to his feet. You're jealous that Niji and I are accomplishing this. You're jealous that our father won't have to force one of his children to enter the branch family. Hinata stated, frowning as she looked at her grandfather. You were forced by tradition to mark Hisashi as a branch family. And you resent that my father held back in marking either me or Hanabi. And now you resent him more that he won't end up having to mark one of us. Didonti put words in my mouth. The Hyuga clan elder exclaimed. The man finally pulled himself off the ground. He was struggling to stand, but still maintained his glare at his grandchildren. I've already spoken my piece. I know exactly what bridging the gap between the main and branch families will cause. I know I'm right. The Hyuga heiress interrupted him. A small, sad smile developed on her lips. Grandfather, please. Trust us. Niji and I-san and I are not doing anything reckless. We know what we are doing. We are going to unite the Hyuga clan and make it stronger than ever. So that way all of the clan will be considered equal. So that way no one, not even a clan head like you were, will be forced to mark one of their children. We're going to do it, regardless of if you have faith in us or not. Niji spoke, crossing his arms. Just surrender now. Yoshikane proceeded to grit his teeth. He turned his head over to the Hyuga clan elders in the audience. He noticed that the group were nodding their heads. It almost appeared to him as if they were in agreement with Hinata and Niji. He then turned his attention to Sai. The root agent was pulling himself off the ground, but he was struggling. Despite Yoshikane's chakra being sealed off, despite not having his Byakugan activated, he knew that the shinobi was unable to keep fighting. Hinata's jutsu was devastating, even more devastating than the technique that Niji pulled off on him. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. Yoshikane closed his eyes. No words were said. The Hyuga shinobi knew what had just occurred. Hyuga Yoshikane was surrendering. And with his surrender, came the consent of the Hyuga clan elders for the new seal. A relieved, elated look developed on both Hinata's and Niji's faces. Hinata immediately pulled her cousin into a hug. We did it, Niji and I-san. She exclaimed. We did it. Niji returned her hug. Tears quickly began to fall from his face, an action that Hinata quickly reciprocated. I'm so proud of us, Hinata-sama dash. Not Hinata-sama. Hinata interrupted, somehow tightening the hug. There's no family difference anymore. We're just cousins now. Hinata. Niji repeated her name, without the honorific. We did it then, Hinata. Never before had the two Hyuga felt as proud as they did in that moment. Hell yeah. Naruto cheered loudly, clapping his hands together. They did it, damn it. Who? Naruto, don't be so loud. She's having a moment. Shikamaru said, chuckling to himself. Despite his words, he had a large grin on his face as he looked at his friend in approval. She did a hell of a job, out there. She fought her ideals and came out on top. She and her cousin showed how truly strong they were. Dosu noted, smiling as well at the Hyuga shinobi. Anko Teiko will be pleased to hear about this. Hinata did amazing. More than amazing. She was a straight-up badass. Naruto continued to exclaim as he started to shout even later. Yeah. That's my girlfriend. And that is my student. Guy cheered out as well. You have done well, Niji-kun. I am so proud of you and I know Lee and Tenten will be elated to hear the news. You have really come into your youthness. I salute you. Hinata-san is so cool. Hanabi thought to herself, smiling brightly. She was admittedly uncertain exactly what changes were about to come to the Hyuga clan, but she knew that it would be for the better, regardless. She was excited and, above all else, proud of her sister and cousin. Hanabi turned to face her father and ask him a question, but she stopped herself before she could even form the first word. She stared at him in shock. Tears were free falling from his face as he smiled the widest smile she could recall ever seeing on his face. Hisashi, look at what your son did. Look at what my daughter did. Hayashi spoke softly to himself. They've accomplished our dreams. Chapter 69, Familial Changes. Damn, my head. I think I did drink a bit too much last night. Anko grumbled to herself as she walked down the streets of Kirigakure. After arriving in Kirigakure, the Konoha Jonin attended a ceremony to celebrate Kyo's introduction into the Seven Swordsmen in Kirigakure. All members were present to celebrate and they all went out to get drinks to celebrate. Anko's memory started to get fuzzy after her 7th bottle of sake and her memory of last night after that straight up stops after her 11th bottle. The only thing she recalled was waking up in Zabuza's apartment, where she had already arranged to sleep at, with a massive hangover. I'm surprised I even managed to get home last night, to be honest, shit. She shook her head. Despite her hangover, though, she felt a smirk develop on her lips. Still, worth it. Anko proceeded to walk through the streets of Kirigakure. As she walked down the streets, she made note of all the cheerful citizens, shinobi and non-shinobi alike, that were simply enjoying life. The city seemed filled with life, with villagers selling fresh-caught fish in the markets and kids just simply running around, playing in the various ponds around the village and in the streets of the village. It seemed so different from the village that she helped invade over 2.5 years ago. Kirigakure, for the first time in over a decade, was at peace. It was a sight that brought great joy to her. The Jonin proceeded to walk through the village until she reached her destination, the Mizukage's office. She proceeded to walk in and took a seat. Sitting at the desk in the center of the room was the Godame Mizukage, Taro Mime. Standing by her side was a shinobi wearing a hunter shinobi's mask. Nice to see you today, Anko. I trust last night was eventful for you. Mei commented with a playful smirk. It actually wasn't, and that's the best part. Anko replied, returning her smirk. The best nights are the ones you can't remember. I can attest to that. The Mizukage chuckled as she turned her head to the shinobi to her right. Don't you agree? Not necessarily. The shinobi replied. I've never been much of a drinker. You know this. Mei frowned in response, you've always been a bore to go out with. A playful smirk then developed on her lips. You're much more fun to be around at home alone, though, Yagura-kun. He proceeded to look downwards. Despite his mask, Anko could tell that he was blushing. Sure, it's the best idea to refer to him that way, Mei? Anko questioned. No one can hear this conversation. No one can hear. I can assure you of that. Yagura spoke up, crossing his arms. I'll obviously respond to Kamui, but I'd prefer to simply go by name whenever possible. Since you already know the truth behind the incident, I'd prefer to simply be referred to as Yagura. Fair enough. Anko noted with a nod of her head. She then turned her attention to the Mizukage. Anyway, I don't really have much to say or report to you, Mei. I just wanted to know if you had anything you needed me to do before I head back to Konoha. Have any missions you need me to do while I'm here? Mei brought her hands together as she closed her eyes. She reopened them and nodded her head at the Jonin. I do have a mission, but it's on the way to Konoha, so you can stop by your village first. I don't require you to come back to report about it. Sending a message should suffice. Mei said as she reached for a scroll. It's simply a mission to visit Taki, delivering a scroll to their village's leader, Shivuki, and give me an update on their Jinchuriki. Anko titled her head slightly. The last part of the mission request was of particular interest to her. Anko was only vaguely familiar with Takigakure's Jinchuriki. The village was rather secretive about their identity and they were someone who did not go on many missions outside of their village. The only thing that Anko could even confirm about them was that the Jinchuriki was female. Are you familiar with who the Jinchuriki is or something? She asked. Unofficially, yes. Mei nodded her head. Yotakata and his student, Hotaru, were traveling by Taki maybe 3 months ago and he crossed paths with the Jinchuriki. Apparently, her name is Fu. Yotakata, huh? A small smile developed on Anko's face. You've heard from him recently. While not a Kirigakure shinobi anymore, he comes by every now and then to report things he believes Mei-chan should know. Yagura answered. He's doing well. He has started taking Hotaru's training seriously. She's making progress as a shinobi and he seems to finally enjoy being her sensei. Excellent to hear. Anko's smile widened further. Anyway, what exactly is my mission? Why would you want me to check up on her? Simply to develop a relationship with her. She's apparently a rather lonely person and could use some more friends in her life. I also think it would be important to just be able to know another village's Jinchuriki, especially considering events related to that Akatsuki organization. At the very least, she deserves to be made aware of the threat they pose to her. Mei noted with a frown. I also would like if you get an audience with Taki's leader, Shivuki, and deliver a scroll to him. Asking for an alliance, I assume. The 7 Swordsmen of Kirigakure member asked. Yes. I'd like to improve our relations with Taki, especially since it is important nowadays to keep tabs on the Nanabe Jinchuriki and make sure she is safe. The Mizukage said. It's also why I'd actually recommend stopping by Konoha and maybe taking a day or two before going. I'd assume your Hokage would possibly want to send a scroll to him as well about the subject matter. Understood. Anko nodded her head in understanding. I can do that, then. I'll go back to Konoha and then get that mission handled right away. After talking to Mei for a little longer, Anko received the scroll meant for Shivuki and proceeded to leave her office. She then began to walk back towards Zabuza's apartment, ready to get her belongings together and pack up. Wonder if I can get Naruto to come along on this, provided he's not busy with his own brats. He'd probably like to meet another Jinchuriki. Anko questioned. I've been out of the village for a little while now. Wonder how all of those brats are doing right now. Hinata had a wide smile on her lips as she walked to the Hyuga clan estate courtyard. Her father had called for a whole clan meeting. She knew exactly what it was about, and she was beyond excited to see her dreams finally come to fruition. By the time she had arrived, a majority of the clan, both branch family and main family members, had already assembled. The two families were divided into two groups, the branch family to the left and the main family to the right. At the front, standing in front of a large tree, was her father. To his side was both Hanabi and Niji. Hinata walked over to their side, taking a position in between her father and sister. The various Hyuga shinobi there noticed that she had a blue-colored seal on her forehead. They started to talk amongst themselves about what exactly the seal meant and what its purpose was. Niji's new seal was also on display, which only furthered discussion. Their seals are with the same blue ink. They have the same thing. One Hyuga main family member noted. What does that mean? Hayashi-sama didn't mark his eldest daughter, did he? Another main family member asked. That would make little sense. Why would he? She's one of the strongest jonin in the village, period. What exactly did he do to Niji? A branch family noted, their eyes narrowed in suspicion. Are we getting that same seal? Their questions were loud enough that the four Hyuga at the front could hear them all. Despite that, they remained quiet, waiting for more Hyuga to arrive. A few more minutes passed and the remaining Hyuga showed up. Hayashi noticed in the back of the main family were the clan elders, who were looked at him with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. The man noticed that Yoshikane was not amongst them, which caused him to frown. Sorry I'm arriving late. Hayashi turned his attention back to the entrance to the courtyard. Uzumaki Masakado walked forward, entering the clan compound. He walked directly down the middle between the two families, until he reached the center. Took a little bit to get out of here. My apologies. Masakado bowed his head at the man. He then turned his head, looking out amongst the crowds of Hyuga shinobi. A frown developed on his lips. What's up with all this silent chatting amongst the people? Don't you have something to tell them? I was waiting for everyone to get here. Hayashi spoke. His eyes focused in on the elders for just a moment before he shook his head. But now that you are here, everyone of importance is here. Let's just begin, then. His words immediately silenced all conversation between the Hyuga. All eyes were on Hayashi as he took a step forward. Thank you all for coming today. I will keep this as brief as possible, but I wish to inform you all of changes occurring to our clan. Changes for the better. Hayashi stated. As your clan head, it is my responsibility to protect this clan and move it forward in the direction best suited for our clan's longevity and prestige. It is my role, as it is the role of every clan head, to unify the clan. In this goal, preceding clan heads have failed to accomplish this and I myself have failed until this point. There is one singular factor that contributes to this failure, our clan's special Fuinjutsu, also referred to as the caged bird seal by many here. Immediately, both the main family and branch family Hyuga stiffened in response. A few branch family members turned to glare at their main family counterparts while the main family simply looked uncomfortable at the subject. The original purpose of the seal is something that is necessary. It is essential to make sure our clan's Byakugan does not fall into the hands of enemy shinobi. Hayashi crossed his arms as a scowl developed on his lips. However, It makes little sense why all shinobi are not marked with the seal to ensure that no one's Byakugan is at risk of being stolen. It also makes even less sense why additional precautions were put into the seal that affects the brains of those with it. It makes perfect sense. A branch family Hyuga spoke up, rolling his eyes. It is so you main family shinobi can keep us in our place. Quiet down when Hayashi-sama is speaking. A main family shinobi hissed in response as she raised her hand to activate the seal. Before she could finish the seal, however, Hayashi's voice boomed throughout the courtyard, "Hyuga Kumiko, do not finish that seal. This is an order from your clan head and you best follow it." The main family member, Kumiko, immediately paled in her face as she lowered her hands. The branch family members all looked at Hayashi in confusion at his actions but remained silent. I will not contest that main family shinobi have historically taken advantage of the additions placed on the caged bird seal. This is a contributing factor in the inability of clan heads to unify the clan. I am here to finally end this division, once and for all. Hayashi stated sharply as he gestured with his hands towards the elderly redhead to his side. As you are all aware, this is Uzumaki Masakado, the last Uzukage of Uzushiagakuer and one of the greatest Fuinjutsu users to ever walk this earth. And thanks to his talent and research, our clan now possesses a new seal. It is as Hayashi-san has stated. Masakado spoke, proudly. I have designed 2 seals to specifically be used for your clan. One is a new seal that will help seal the Byakugan eyes permanently with no other effects. It will be implemented from here on out. Hinata currently is displaying what that seal looks like. Hinata stepped forward. She pushed up her bangs, showing off the full seal in plain sight. Niji then proceeded to step forward as Masakado gestured to him. Niji here is displaying the other seal. It is an addition to the caged bird seal that will be placed on all current branch family members that will eliminate the adverse side effects the seal places on the afflicted Hyuga's brains. Both main and branch family members were silent as they stared at Hayashi in awe. There was quiet apprehension on the faces of most main family members. They obviously had concerns about the implantation of the new seal and what it would mean for their roles in the clan. The branch family, on the other hand, was looking at Hayashi in disbelief. They were seemingly waiting for a catch to be introduced. This change has already been given approval by the clan elders. All shinobi will be marked with these new seals in this upcoming month. I have already arranged an appointment with Masakado for myself today, as has my youngest daughter, Hanabi. Hayashi stated sharply. This will usher our clan into a new future, a united future where our clan is stronger than it has ever been. And it will done not under a branch family or main family, it will be accomplished simply by one family, the Hyuga clan. Hayashi then gestured for Niji and Hinata to come forward to his side. Both shinobi did just that, standing directly to his right and left respectively. Hinata and Niji represent the future of our clan, the greatest the main and branch families had to offer. They have become successful jonin despite their young ages and have shown strength I have never seen before in Hyuga shinobi. The clan head noted. He looked at his daughter, who simply nodded her head, smiling at him, which urged him to continue. With that in mind, and with Hinata's blessing, I will usher this new generation forward with a new heir, a branch family who will be able to take the mantle with ease. I would like to take this moment to present to you all the young man who will take my place as clan head one day, Hyuga Niji. Niji's eyes widened in shock as he turned to face his uncle. What dash? He could not even finish his statement before loud noise filled the entire courtyard. Niji turned his attention back to see every single branch family clapping their hands, screaming and shouting in approval. He even noticed a few of the members had tears in their eyes as they looked at him. Niji's mouth seemed to open slightly in shock as he turned his head to face his cousin. Hinata, the clan would succeed easily with you as the clan head. You have the birthright. You have the strength. Niji said, shaking his head in disbelief. Why did you and Hayashi-sama do this? Niji and I-san, didn't you just hear my father's speech? There's no such thing as birthrights in the clan anymore, no branch or main families. We're all just Hyuga. And what better way to show it? Hinata said with a bright smile, tears developing in her own eyes. You're a more traditional Hyuga. You're an excellent shinobi as well and you'd give me a run for my money in a fight nowadays. You have a much more neutral, focused mind when it comes to political situations. You also understand the feelings of the Branch family, more than I could ever hope to. You're the perfect person to finish bridging the gap. You'll make the perfect clan head. Niji's eyes started to widen further, simultaneously filling with tears. He then reached out to his cousin and pulled her into a hug of his own, one Hinata was quick to return. Hayashi and Masakado looked out into the crowds of Hyuga shinobi. There was still concerns, the main family Hyuga still seemed apprehensive, and there was always a risk of some Branch family shinobi going rogue now that they were going to be free of the cursed seal. However, Hayashi knew these were going to be minor concerns. This was the beginning of a new generation for the Hyuga clan. Things were finally going to move forward for a clan that had always been rooted in its traditions. Shikamaru was breathing heavily to himself, sweat come off his face, as he looked around himself in Training Ground 17. The area around him had scattered fires on the ground that were starting to dissipate. He brought his hands together into a hand sign, but he stopped himself as he began to hear footsteps. He turned his head and saw Naruto walking towards him. A smirk developed on his lips as he wiped the sweat off his face. "Thanks for meeting up with me, Naruto," Shikamaru said. "How was training your students?" "Good, although we cut training short today. The Hyuga clan made their big announcement today about the clan changes and Hanabi needed to be there, and I didn't really feel like training Katsumi and Kanji without her," Naruto admitted with a chuckle. "I don't really want there to be some training disparity amongst the group." "Makes sense." Shikamaru nodded his head in understanding. "You've just been here waiting for me?" The Uzumaki let a smirk develop on his lips. "Seems like you've worked up a sweat already." "I have, and I intend on working up another one in a moment," Shikamaru said a chuckle. "Regardless, now that you're here, I'd like to ask if I can try a new jutsu I just invented." The Jinchuriki's eyebrow raised at the question. When Shikamaru had asked Naruto if he could meet up for some training, Naruto assumed that he meant he wanted to spar or something. He was unaware Shikamaru was experimenting with a jutsu. "How long have you been working on it?" he questioned. "A little over 2 years, actually. It's been an idea of mine for a little bit, and my dad, Anko-sensei, and Koharu-sensei helped give me ideas on how to make it work. And I think I finally got it ready," Shikamaru stated. "First thing, though, can you make me a shadow clone?" Naruto nodded his head in understanding and made a singular hand sign. In a poof of smoke, a clone of Naruto appeared. The clone proceeded to grimace as it walked away from Shikamaru, crossing its arms. "This is going to hurt, isn't it?" the clone questioned. "Unfortunately, it will." Shikamaru nodded his head. Shadow Possession Jutsu. Shikamaru's shadow rushed forward towards the clone, quickly trapping it. The clone was now stuck, unable to move. Shikamaru then proceeded to change hand signs the clone quickly replicated. Fire Style, Shadow Ignite Jutsu. Fire spontaneously arose from Shikamaru's shadow, completely covering every inch entirely. Only Shikamaru's body was unscathed, everything else was consumed in the large, red flames. Naruto's clone did not have the time to react, it was unable to move as the flames completely encased it. It immediately dissipated. The original Naruto proceeded to shiver, as memories of the clone entered his mind. "Damn!" he mumbled, shaking his head. He looked over at his best friend in amazement. "That's actually really cool. The shadow still managed to hold my clone in place even when the flames came out. There was nothing it could do." "Heh. Good." Shikamaru's smirk grew as he pocketed his hands. "I wanted to try it on one of your clones to see if it could resist the shadow. I've experimented with the jutsu on immobile objects like rocks and stuff, but I needed to see how it worked on an actual shinobi. The problem is that this technique is a bit lethal to really implement in just a spar or something. I mean, to be fair, we've both thrown out worse in spars. As has Hinata, Anko, Dosuo, and everyone," Naruto noted. "But I know what you mean. This feels like a finishing blow technique. Meant to be, at least. Or a quick finish, I suppose," Shikamaru stated, his smirk starting to falter. I wanted to make sure it was ready in case of something. Something? The Uzumaki questioned. Ugh, this is troublesome to explain. But we were just talking a little bit about this yesterday, Naruto. The Nara said, frowning. The stuff with Kabuto going on. IWA has a lot of civil problems. The Akatsuki still being a thing. And the fact that it's been a bit too peaceful. I'm honestly expecting something to happen soon. And when it does, I want to be ready to fight and end things quickly. I want to find ways to end whatever battles I get in as quick as possible. Naruto was quiet. His eyes narrowed in on his friend as he recalled conversations the two had with each other. Realization dawned on his face, which caused Naruto to frown as well. This technique, you think it would have killed Karatoriki instantly and would have prevented him from killing the hostages? Naruto noted. That's where this idea came from, yeah? Shikamaru nodded his head. I don't know if it would have worked like that. But I think it would have. And I refuse to let something like that happen again. Naruto remained quiet still as he continued to study his friend. He saw the sadness in Shikamaru's eyes at the reminder of the hostage situation in Kirigakure, but he also noticed the amount of determination in his eyes. A smile developed on the Uzumaki's lips as he gave his friends a thumbs up. Nothing like that will ever happen again. I know you'll stop it. Because you're an awesome shinobi, Shikamaru. Naruto stated. A small smile of his own developed on Shikamaru's face as he returned the gesture, giving Naruto a thumbs up, thanks. The two were quiet for a second before Shikamaru unpocketed his hands. He then walked a little bit away from Naruto and got into a position to spar. Anyway, I did want you to come out and train with me for more than just a jutsu demonstration. Come on. I haven't gotten a chance to spar with you for a little bit. He stated. Heh. Naruto's smile turned into a grin as he got into a stance of his own. Bring it on. The two friends proceeded to charge forward at one another. A loud knock sounded through the Hokage's office. Jiraiya turned his upward, away from his paperwork, and looked at the door. You can enter. Immediately, the door opened, and a little redhead girl rushed in. Jiraiya smiled at her as she quickly rushed over to the chair in front of his desk and took a seat. Hello, how can I help you? The Hokage said cheerfully. I don't believe I've met you before. What's your name? Setsuko. The little girl replied, just as cheerfully. It's really nice to meet you, old creepy guy. Jiraiya's smile immediately dropped and his eyes began to twitch. Before he could even comment on her choice of words, two more figures walked into the room, an older red-haired man he had never met and a red-haired young woman that he was too familiar with. Setsuko, that goes beyond just rude. Don't say things like that to him. The man chided as he rushed over to her side. He quickly bowed his head. Please forgive my daughter. She's a very impressionable person and dash. There's no need to worry. I can see where she picked up language like that. Jiraiya stated as he focused in on the third person. Teiwa, for crying out loud, can't you at least give people a good impression of me when you talk about me? Hey, I've said nothing but good things. That's why she was so happy to meet you. Teiwa replied with a knowing smirk. The Hokage took in a deep sigh. I swear to God, no Uzumaki respects authority in the slightest. He remained still for just a moment before he composed himself. His eyes moved towards the man Teiwa had brought to Konoha. So, I am aware of Teiwa's personal objective. I take it you and the little girl here are Uzumaki, correct? Jiraiya questioned. Yes we are. The man nodded. My name is Uzumaki Susumu and this is my daughter, Uzumaki Setsuko. Hi again. The little girl said cheerfully. Jiraiya's smile turned to her again. How old are you, Setsuko-chan? 7. Setsuko replied, grinning. Teiwa-san said I was old enough to join the ninja academy and I really want to be a cool awesome ninja. You want to be a kunoichi, huh? A chuckle escaped the Hokage's lips. I can see it now. You're going to be a splendid ninja. Yay. The little girl clapped her hands together as she turned to her father. Hear that, Dad? He knows I'm going to be a splendid ninja. He's the Hokage, Setsuko-chan, so he knows a few things. Susumu replied with a light chuckle. The Hokage then turned his attention back to the man, so, if you don't mind me asking, can you let me know some personal information? Just a little backstory of you and your life. Well, I am 36 years old. My parents left Uzashigakure during the invasion when I was really young, so I don't recall much of life back then. Susumu stated. My family moved to Mizuno-kuni and thought to blend in with the civilians there. This ended up not being the best idea, though, with Kirigakure being the way that it was. Eventually, my parents were killed by rogue Kiri shinobi. I should have probably left the country then, but I was stubborn and didn't want to move to another new place. So I just simply found a civilian village to live in and stayed there for years. I found ways to hide my lineage. So you stayed in Mizuno-kuni the entire time? Jiraiya asked. Susumu nodded his head. I was stubborn and simply did not want to travel anymore. By the time I had Setsuko, I was beginning to debate whether or not we should leave, as I didn't think the country was safe to raise a child in. By the time I had committed to the idea of moving, however, the war finally ended. A small smile developed on his lips. But at this point, I was now more than willing to move. And once I met Teiwa-san and she told me about an Uzumaki clan in Konoha, I was more than willing to move here. A village like this is best for Setsuko. Well, I'd like to think so. I think we'll provide a good place for your family. The Hokage said. He then pulled out a blank scroll and began to open it. I'll make arrangements to have you two be welcome into Konoha as citizens. I do have one more question, though. Your daughter has stated that she wants to become a shinobi. Do you have any desires to do so? I know you said you hid amongst civilians, so I am not fully certain whether or not you have had any shinobi training. I was trained by my parents and I have found ways to keep training in private. The Uzumaki father stated. I am probably Jonin level in skill, but if you wish for me to demonstrate my abilities, I am more than willing to do so. I'd also be more than willing to be instated as a shinobi in general. I'd be more than willing to have you join our ranks. I'll arrange to have a private session with you later so I can assess your skills. Fair. Susumu nodded his head. I have a few more things I'd like to talk to Jiraiya about. If you two want, you both can go explore Konoha. Teiwa said with a smile. Just walk around. When I finish, I'll find you and I can take you both home. Of course. Susumu, again, nodded his head. Let's go explore Setsuko. Maybe we can go get something to eat. Oh, okay. Maybe we can find a good seafood place. Setsuko said as she got out of her chair. She then waved at the Hokage. Bye. With that, the Uzumaki father and daughter proceeded to walk out of the room. Teiwa proceeded to walk over to the chair and take a seat herself. If they think they're gonna find a good seafood place to eat that compares to the stuff in Mizuno-kuni, good luck. Teiwa chuckled. You never know. Konoha might have something they like. Jiraiya said as he began to write down information in the blank scroll about Susumu and Setsuko. You probably added another hour or two to my paperwork today, but I'll have their citizenship stuff worked out. I'll also have Setsuko's entrance to the academy worked out as well. That's great to hear. Teiwa stated with a grin. Her face quickly fell, however, as she brought her hands together. You can do the paperwork later, though. I've got something big to talk about. Jiraiya dropped his pen and pushed the scroll to the side, his face turning serious as well. Did Ataka speak with you? Yup. She nodded her head. I have a report to give on Akatsuki. They're working towards a big attack against Kumigakure. When? He questioned. During the next Chunin exams. Teiwa replied as she rolled her eyes. They're pulling off Orochimaru's bullshit. Only this seems more likely to succeed. Their goal is to stir up chaos in the village, while the village is already distracted with the Chunin exams, while they capture the Nyobai and Hakusabi Jinchuriki. And they believe they'll be able to accomplish this. Jiraiya questioned. The Hokage was familiar with both Jinchuriki. Niijutito, the Nyobai Jinchuriki, was considered one of the top shinobi of Kumigakure, and Killer Bee, the Hakusabi Jinchuriki, was the brother to the Yondaime Raikage and was considered unstoppable in combat alongside his brother. Neither were shinobi to take lightly. They have a plan for this, Teiwaya noted as she started to relax in her chair. From what I understand, their leader should be leading this attack. You mean the shinobi that Itaki refers to as Pain? Jiraiya frowned in response. Yup. She nodded her head. Jiraiya remained quiet as he listened to Teiwaya continued to give her report. Yoshikane, I wish to speak with you. Hayashi spoke. The Hyuga clan head stood outside a door in the main family compound. He stood patiently, waiting for the door to open. Nearly a minute passed by before the door opened. Yoshikane walked out of the door and his eyes narrowed on the man. I was trying to sleep, Hayashi. Make this quick. Yoshikane stated. You're still dressed in your robes. Do not lie to me. Hayashi noted, scowling. I noticed you did not attend the clan meeting. I already knew what the topic was, and you already know my stance on the matter. I felt my presence was unnecessary. Yoshikane replied simply. I assume it was welcome to you, Niji, and Hinata that I was not there. I meant for the whole clan to be there. That includes you. Hayashi said, shaking his head. You need to quit this, father. Quit what? I've acquiesced to your new seal already. The Hyuga clan elder stated sharply. I'll even make an appointment with Masakado-san to get my own seal. I'm not referring to your acceptance. You know precisely what I meant. His son sighed. Father, the Hyuga clan today is still the clan you led. You cannot act as if you are not a part of it any longer. I disagree with this, Hayashi. Yoshikane crossed his arms. You know my stance. I will stand proudly claim to be a Hyuga, but I am not going to simply pretend to be a part of this change you, your daughter, and your nephew are bringing. You are aware that they are your grandchildren, yes? You should not speak with such a harsh tone when referring to them. Hayashi commented. You should also not resent them for what they are doing. They are simply trying to better the clan in a way that both you and I failed. Yoshikane immediately turned around and re-entered his room. He proceeded to shut the door, but Hayashi extended his hand, catching the door before it could shut. Father, their goal is to eliminate the circumstances that caused Hisashi's death. There is no harm in that. Hayashi stated. Yoshikane said nothing, he did not turn back to face his son. Instead, he proceeded to walk further into his room. Hayashi watched his father go to his bed and lay down. The two were silent for 5 minutes. Coming to the conclusion that conversation was over, Hayashi shook his head. I'll repeat myself, do not resent your own grandchildren for correcting our clan's mistakes. Hayashi said as he proceeded to close the door. Good night, father. With those words, Hayashi started to walk away. Yoshikane was still in his bed as he listened to his son's footsteps. When they finally stopped, and he was no longer anywhere near him, tears started to fall Yoshikane's face. He remained crying like that for hours until he managed to fall asleep. Fucking hell, Shikamaru. Naruto rubbed his head. That was brutal. The moon was in the sky as Naruto walked back to the Uzumaki clan compound. He and Shikamaru continuously sparred for hours. Shikamaru's knowledge of medical ninjutsu and Naruto's innate ability to heal up allowed the two to continue fighting without end. The only thing that kept them from continuing any longer was both shinobi getting hungry. It was still enjoyable, though. Naruto had not fought with Shikamaru in a while and it was good to have a sparring partner like that in a while to keep him on his toes. The Uzumaki's thoughts moved to Hinata, as he realized it had been equally as long since they both sparred as well. I'll ask her next time. She's surely gotten better. She kicked so much ass yesterday. He smirked. With those thoughts, Naruto continued on his way back to his clan compound. It took him 20 minutes to get back to the clan compound and he walked into the main building, heading towards the kitchen to get himself something to eat. As he walked into the building, he heard two different people laughing, one voice that he recognized as Masakado's and another that sounded like a young girl. A confused look developed on his face as he proceeded to make his way through the hallways of the building. When he arrived in the compound, he saw Masakado sitting down at the dinner table, sitting next to a young, red-haired girl. Both had plates of sushi and tempura shrimp that were half-eaten. Standing off to the side was Masamune and another red-haired man, both holding empty plates. I can't believe you went up to him and just told him his hair looks like a duck's butt. Masakato stated, laughing loudly. You have no filter, kid. I love it. She does, and she needs to refrain from making comments like that. The other red-haired man commented, frowning slightly. I didn't mean anything bad by it. The little girl replied, pouting as she took a bite of one of the shrimp tempura. She quickly swallowed it before continuing to speak. I just had never seen that before and I wanted to know if he did that on purpose. Maybe he just likes ducks. I'm sure he probably hates ducks now. Masakato continued to cackle. God, I wish I could have seen the Uchiha's face. Oh. They're talking about Sasuke. Naruto snickered to himself, recalling the first time Kiba brought up Sasuke's hair. I always wondered what his reaction would be to someone saying that. Naruto's snicker caused the group to turn their attention to him. Masakato smirked as he held up a full plate of food. Well, look who's finally home. Masakato exclaimed. Finally, was wondering when you'd get here. Come enjoy a plate and say hello to our new family. New family. Naruto blinked in surprise. Realization quickly dawned on him. A large smile developed on his face as his eyes from the red-haired man to the little girl, who was starting to get out of her chair. We just arrived earlier today. Masakato has told us a lot about you, Naruto. The red-haired man stated with a smile. It's so nice to meet you. My name is Susumu and the little girl is my daughter, Setsuko. We're both Uzumaki dash. Before he could finish his introduction, the young girl, Setsuko, quickly tackled Naruto to the ground, pulling him into a tight hug, giggling as the two fell down. Naruto was quick to return it, laughing as well. It's really nice to meet you, Naruto and I-san. She exclaimed. Masakadoji-san said you're a super special awesome shinobi. You got to show me what you can do. I want to be an amazing shinobi too. He has, A smirk developed on Naruto's face as he pulled both him and Setsuko off the ground. Well, I hope I don't disappoint you then. It's nice to meet you too, Setsuko-chan. Oh? So you're back, finally? About fucking time. Naruto and Setsuko broke their embrace. The Jinchuriki turned his head back to the door to the kitchen to see Teiwa standing there, grinning, holding a bronze-colored flute in her left hand. Teiwa, can you not curse in front of my daughter? Susumu commented, frowning. Yeah. Sorry. The spymaster of Konoha said sheepishly. Heh. Good luck with that. She has even less of a filter than Setsuko. Masamune mumbled under his breath with a chuckle. What was that, Masamune? Teiwa stated quickly, glaring at her cousin. The blacksmith immediately looked downward, poking his fingers together, which caused her to chuckle. That's what I thought. Now dash. Teiwa was interrupted as Naruto quickly brought her into a hug. The wide grin on his face was developing even further. You're back, Teiwa-ne. He exclaimed. And you brought back more Uzumaki. Of course I am. And of course I did. Again, Konoha is the birthplace for the next generation of Uzumaki. Teiwa stated as she returned the hug. Good to see you again, Naruto. The two cousins broke their hug. Teiwa then proceeded to walk over to Setsuko and extended the flute out to her. Now, Setsuko-chan, did you want to actually learn how to play the flute? 'Cause we can start lessons now, if you want. Teiwa offered. Sure. Setsuko clapped her hands together excitedly. A little kid learning an instrument. This ought to be interesting. I guess. Masakato mumbled to himself, a slight nervous expression on his face. He then turned his attention to Naruto and gestured to him. Kid, come on over and eat. Sushi is actually not that bad and the tempura is still warm. Naruto walked over to the table and sat down next to the elder Uzumaki. He then proceeded to eat his food while Teiwa began to show Setsuko how to play the flute. He watched the little girl, who he now knew as his cousin, struggle to play different notes as Teiwa began to carefully instruct her, looking like an older sister. He watched Susumu and Masamune talk to each other casually. He watched Masakato, who was also simply just looking at the other Uzumaki in the room. More time has gone by and the Uzumaki clan in Konoha was starting to feel more like a family than it ever had. It was a feeling that Naruto was cherishing more and more with each new addition to the family. Chapter 70, Team 3 Reunited. Hey, slow down. Stop running. Iruka shouted as two kids, both around the age of 10, bolted through the hallway of the academy. Both kids did not slow down as they stormed into one of the classroom. Iruka sighed, rubbing the temples of his eyes in annoyance. He would yell and punish them in around 15 minutes, when class officially started. The academy instructor continued to watch as more and more students began to arrive at the academy, entering their respective classrooms and talking to their classmates. His attention was diverted, however, as he noticed a new arrival rush through the hallway. She was a young girl with long, curly red hair and bright blue eyes. She wore a blue t-shirt that had the Uzumaki clan's spiral symbol on the front and a pair of gray shorts that went just past her knees. Hi. You're Iruka-sensei, right? She quickly stated. It's nice to meet you. My name's Setsuko and dash. Oi, Setsuko-chan, stop running through the halls. Iruka-sensei hates that. Iruka turned his attention upwards to see that Naruto was following her. Setsuko pouted in response, crossing her arms. Iruka's eyes moved from her to Naruto before he proceeded to chuckle and look downward to the girl. It's alright, I'm not upset or anything. Just try not to make a habit of that, okay? He told her. It's nice to meet you, Setsuko. You're just starting here today, aren't you? Her pout immediately went away as the little girl beamed at the academy instructor. Your classroom is actually just over there. Iruka said, pointing to a room 2 doors down the hallway. Class is going to start soon, so feel free to go inside and introduce yourself to some of your classmates if you want. Or if you'd rather, you can stay with me and I can introduce you. No, it's okay, I'll do it myself. She said excitedly. By Naruto and I-san. Setsuko turned her body and seemed as if she was about to bolt forward, but she looked back and stared at Iruka. She then turned around again and began to walk, albeit at a fast pace, towards the room. When she entered the classroom, Iruka chuckled to himself as he turned his attention back to Naruto. I received notice from Hokage-sama that I was getting an Uzumaki as a student, but I couldn't really believe it at first. I'm starting to see it now. Iruka noted. She seems just as excitable as you were. For your sake, I hope she's not. Naruto said with a laugh. I wouldn't mind her being a handful in the way that you were. You still are one of the most rewarding students I've ever had to teach. I'd be more than happy if she turned out to be half the shinobi you were. Iruka said with a smile. Regardless, I'm glad to see you have picked up a little sister, it seems. I'm just as glad. Naruto said, returning Iruka's smile with one of his own. She and her father have only been in the village for a week, but it already feels like they've been here forever. It feels nice having them here. The academy instructor nodded his head, that's what family is like. I'm really happy for you, Naruto. Thanks. The blonde-haired Uzumaki smiled back. Anyway, I was just taking her to school. I actually have to go meet up with my team for training now. But it was nice to see you. Make sure to not show her anything too cool, otherwise she's not gonna shut up about it later tonight. A chuckle escaped his lips as he started to turn away, waving goodbye. Later Iruka-sensei. Iruka waved goodbye to his former student. His smile seemingly widened as he studied Naruto as the Jonin faded from distance. He shook his head, chuckling to himself. One of these days, he'll probably come to the academy to escort his own child to my class. Iruka noted with a small smirk. Who knows, though? Maybe by that time, he'll be escorting that kid wearing the Hokage's robe and hat. With a chuckle, Iruka turned his attention back to his students. Immediately, his eyes twitched as he noticed the same 10-year-old kids from earlier running again through the hallway. Hey! What did I say about running through the hallway? You can come in. At the sound of the affirmative response, Hyuga Hayashi proceeded to open the doors to the Hokage's office. He walked into the room and saw Jiraiya, standing, shaking hands with another shinobi. He was a tall man with shaggy red hair. He wore a black long-sleeve shirt and a pair of grey tight-fitted pants. The man was shaking the Hokage's hand with his right hand, while his left hand clutched onto the standard Konoha flak jacket and Konoha forehead protector. Both men turned their attention towards Hayashi, who bowed his head in response. "Forgive my intrusion," Hayashi said. "I can leave if you wish to speak later." "No, it's fine. Susumu and I were just finishing up here anyway," Jiraiya said with a chuckle. "Hayashi, this is Uzumaki Susumu, a newly appointed jonin to our village." "Uzumaki, huh?" A small smirk developed on Hayashi's face. He had heard from both Hinata and Naruto about the arrival of two new Uzumaki, a father and daughter. He was finally meeting one, it seemed. "I am Hyaga Hayashi. It is an honor to meet you." "The honor is all mine, Hayashi-san." Susumu bowed his head. He then turned his head back to the Hokage. "It seems like you two have some business, so I'll leave you both to it. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, Jiraiya-sama. I greatly appreciate it." "Hey, I'm not giving you any opportunity. You showed me that you deserve to be a jonin." Jiraiya chuckled in response. The Uzumaki shook his head. "You opened up your village to me and my daughter. You're giving Setsuko a real home that she can grow up in. And I greatly appreciate that." With those words, Susumu bid farewell and left the room, leaving Jiraiya and Hayashi alone. Jiraiya proceeded to take a seat at his desk again while Hayashi took the seat across from the desk. "He seems rather pleasant," Hayashi noted. "He's very atypical for all Uzumaki I met. Susumu actually seems fairly introverted and respectful of authority." "Who knew that was possible?" Jiraiya stated with a laugh. "But he's definitely a good shinobi. I tested him yesterday and he's got real skill." "That is good to hear," Hayashi said. It was then that Jiraiya noticed the new dark blue seal that was placed on Hayashi's forehead. A knowing smirk developed on his lips as he gestured towards it. "Looks good on you," he noted. "Thank you." Hayashi nodded his head, a small smile developing on his lips. "I thought briefly of covering it up, but I believe I will be following in my daughter's and nephew's example and leave my forehead exposed. I am rather fond of this seal and what it represents." "Again, I'm very glad to hear that. I'm honestly very happy for your clan," Jiraiya noted. Silence filled the Hokage's office for a moment. Jiraiya watched Hayashi bring his hands together, the smile on his face fading as quickly as it came. The Hokage proceeded to sigh as his expression turned into a more neutral one. "Is something troubling you, Hayashi?" he asked. "I have a concern, yes." The Hyaga clan head sighed. "Hokage-sama, are you familiar with a shinobi named Sai?" "Sai?" Jiraiya said the name with a frown. "I know the name, yes." "What about him?" "He was the shinobi who fought alongside my father in the spar with Hinata and Neji," Hayashi said, a scowl developing on his lips. "Do you know anything about him?" "Sai? Sai's a bit of a mystery to me, to be honest. I have a home address for him and I have report on his credentials and skills as a shinobi back from when Sarutobi-sensei was Hokage," Jiraiya noted with a frown. "I have nothing really on his past or his time at the academy, nor anything about any family. Based off all the information I have, he just seemingly showed up one day in Konoha. I suspect he is linked to Root," Hayashi noted. Jiraiya nodded his head. "I have no proof of that, but I suspect that as well. Root, an organization that the Sandaime Hokage was supposed to have shut down, an operation organized run by Shimura Danzo. The organization prided itself on its secrecy. Only select individuals in Konoha, and anyone unfortunate enough to cross paths with them, but fortunate enough to survive the encounter, were aware of its existence. I am trying to figure out why my father employed one of Danzo's shinobi to work with him. I am also trying to figure out why Danzo would even assist him," Hayashi admitted, frowning slightly. "Have you confronted him yet?" Jiraiya questioned. Hayashi shook his head. "Yoshikane will deny the allegations. He won't give any information unless I have proof." Unfortunately, I only have my suspicions. I don't have concrete evidence of anything. Jiraiya admitted with a frown. Only thing I have is reports that suspiciously lack information, but nothing concrete enough to pin him with root. Jiraiya's frown proceeded to deepen as he crossed his arms. I have even less information about Danzo at the moment and whatever he is planning. While Hiruzen's former advisors, Koharu and Homura, would come occasionally to chat with Jiraiya and give him advice, the Godame Hokage had rarely ever seen Danzo since he became Hokage. While he did actively detest the man and was glad to not be around him, it also worried him. Danzo was someone you did not want to run around without some form of surveillance. I see. Hayashi shook his head. He proceeded to stand up and turn to the door. If you do not mind this favor, please be on the lookout for him. I am suspicious of whatever he was doing with my clan and anything he is currently planning. I will try and keep an eye out on him. Jiraiya nodded his head in understanding. If I find anything fishy, I'll keep you updated. The Hyuga clan leader bowed his head before leaving the room, leaving Jiraiya to himself. The Godame Hokage proceeded to sigh as he brought his hands to his forehead. All I want to do right now is do some research for Ika tactics. Ugh, why is this job so stressful? He grumbled to himself. The Hokage remained motionless at his desk. His eyes moved over to some scattered paperwork he was going to have to do. After a few minutes of staring, he proceeded to push his paperwork to the side of his desk and reach below his desk. He pulled out a small green notebook, titled Ika Research Notes, and placed it on the desk. Just as he reached for a pen, a knock sounded on his door. Oh, for fuck's sake! He nearly shouted as he hid the notebook. He was really starting to resent this job. Come in, damn it. Wow, that's not the way you're supposed to speak to one of your top, favorite jonin. You're supposed to be happy that I'm back. Jiraiya's eyes softened and a chuckle escaped his lips as Mitarashi Anko opened the door to his office. The woman had an irritated look on her face as she took a seat. Sorry, Anko. I was just wanting some alone time and was expecting it to be someone like Sarutobi-sensei's old teammates. I'll gladly talk to you. He told her. Alone time. Anko repeated the phrase, her irritated look turning into one of disgust. The fuck are you doing in this office? A horrified look developed on Jiraiya's face, which quickly developed into a scowl. Hey, you know I'm not the kind of person to that in this office. I may be a super pervert, but I'm not that perverted. Sure you aren't. Anko replied, shaking her head. Bah. Jiraiya crossed his arms. What do you want, Anko? You wanting to give a report back from that mission you went on with Zabuza? I do, yes. I also have a mission from Kiri that might interest you, if you want to do something similar as well. The Jonin said as she pulled out a scroll. The Hokage remained quiet as Anko began giving him her report. Naruto placed his chopsticks on his finished ramen bowl, pleased. Training had ended and he had just taken his students out for lunch before they go visit the Hokage for any missions. His eyes moved over to them as he watched Hanabi, Katsumi, and Kanji all work on their own bowls. When you all are finished, we can go chat with Ero Sennin and see what missions are available. He told them with a smirk. Duh. Katsumi began to talk with her mouth full of noodles. She quickly swallowed the bite in her mouth before she gave her Jonin-sensei a defiant look. For the love of God, please let us have some form of C-rank mission. I think we deserve at least something interesting. Nothing has really happened since the mission in Suna. Naruto-sensei will see whether or not there's a mission, Katsumi. Kanji commented, snickering. He watched his teammate turn to him with a scowl on his face, which caused his snickering to continue. What? Displeased with that pun? I knew DLE you would be. For fuck's dash Katsumi's words were cut off as Hanabi proceeded to elbow her, a small frown on the Hyuga's lips. For the love of God, Kanji. Shut up and just eat. Naruto proceeded to snicker, watching his students interact. He was about to open his mouth, but he was stopped as he heard a voice, Oi, Naruto. Been a while man. The Uzumaki turned around to see four figures approaching him, Inyazuka Kiba and Akamaru, Harano Sakura, and Uchiha Sasuke. Nowadays, Kiba wore all black, The shinobi wore a black leather jacket that fit tightly against his chest and black pants. He had grown taller, but any physical changes he had made in the past 2.5 years paled in comparison to Akamaru's changes. The little puppy was now a massive, adult-sized dog. He looked large enough for Kiba, or anyone, to ride. Sakura wore a red sleeveless top and a pair of black shorts underneath a pinkish-gray apron skirt. She also wore a pair of black gloves. The kunoichi also had a satchel-like bag that she was wearing over her shoulders. The bag was a pinkish-gray color that seemed to match her skirt that had the Konoha leaf symbol engraved on it. Sasuke wore a gray short-sleeve shirt underneath a black cloak that had the Uchiha clan crest printed on its back and a pair of dark blue pants. He also wore a pair of blue wrist warmers. The Uchiha also had his hair styled differently. His long black hair was seemingly straightened and covered a portion of his left eye. "Hey Kiba, Sakura, Sasuke. How's it going?" Naruto said cheerfully. The blonde's eyes moved over to Sasuke, particularly his hair, and a smirk began to develop on his lips. "Your hair looks different, Sasuke. It doesn't look like a duck anymore. What happened?" "Ha!" Kiba immediately began to cackle, clapping his hands. "Naruto, can you believe it? This little girl about a week ago went up to his face and just called it a duck's butt. Dude, we talked about it that one day and someone finally said it to him." The Inuzuka proceeded to laugh even harder. It looked as if he was struggling to remain standing. "I've never seen Sasuke look so offended in his life. I've never seen him emote like that before and dash." The Inuzuka was cut off, as Sakura proceeded to smack him on his head. He proceeded to fall to the ground upon impact. He winced in pain as reached for his head. "Ow!" he mumbled to himself. Before he could make any more comment, Sasuke proceeded to kick him in his shin, which caused him to yelp in pain again. "Ow! What the hell guys? Kiba, quit making fun of Sasuke-kun. His hair looked fine before and you know that." Sakura snapped. She then turned to look at Naruto, scowling. "And don't prod him on. You knew that reaction was coming." "You're right, I'm sorry." Naruto rubbed his head sheepishly. He then turned his attention to Sasuke, who was frowning at him. "I'm sorry about that. Honestly, your hair looks good right now. It'll take some time getting used to it, but it looks good. I wish someone had told me about my hair looking like that before," a little girl pointed out to me. "But thanks," Sasuke said with a sigh. The Uchiha's eyes moved towards the genin sitting next to Naruto and his eyebrow rose. "These your students?" "Yup." Naruto nodded his head as he quickly gestured at them. "Guys, meet Uchiha Sasuke, Harano Sakura, and Inuzuka Kiba and Akamaru, also known as Team 7. Team 7, meet my incredibly awesome and amazing genin team, Hyuga Hanabi, Inu Katsumi, and Yamanaka Kanji." "Hanabi." Sakura spoke the youngest student's name with a surprised look. "You're Hinata's sister, right?" Hanabi nodded her head. "It's an honor to meet you all." "Yo." Katsumi waved at Team 7. Immediately, after hearing Sasuke's first name, an idea for a pun entered Kanji's mind, one based on the last 3 letters of his name. He opened his mouth to make the pun, but his eyes trailed back to Kiba, who was knocked to the ground simply for making a joke about Sasuke's hair. His eyes then turned to Sakura, who seemed particularly defensive of the Uchiha. Deciding it wise to bite his tongue and not risk getting hit himself, the Yamanaka waved his hand instead of saying anything. "Naruto a Jonin sensei, huh? That just sounds weird." Kiba mumbled to no one in particular. He proceeded to walk forward towards the nearest student, Katsumi, and whispered loud enough so that everyone can hear. "Hey, don't tell Naruto, but if you all want to learn some actual skills, come find me around Konoha and I'll show you what I know as a shinobi." Akamaru barked in agreement. "I heard that Kiba." Naruto replied, rolling his eyes as he playfully pushed Kiba backwards, away from his students. "Ignore him, he's an idiot. He doesn't have anything to show you that Naruto can't show you," Sakura said with a giggle. Her giggle turned into much louder laughter as Kiba crossed his arms and began to pout. "I honestly doubt any shinobi has much to offer us in comparison," Katsumi said with a shrug. Naruto-sensei has done an incredible job working with us. I really can't imagine another Jonin-sensei doing as good of a job as him. Naruto turned back to his student with a surprised look on his face. While he was not a particularly modest person and would take credit for the way he was training, he did not know he would go that far. Hearing his own student make such a claim was rather surprising to him. A smile developed on his lips. It was surprising, but it felt nice. Very nice. Well, I'm glad he's doing good with you all. Sasuke spoke up. His eyes then moved to Naruto. I assume you're nominating them for the next Chunin exams then. Huh. The blonde blinked in confusion. Damn right he is. Katsumi stated with a chuckle. We're gonna kick so much ass then. Naruto-sensei's team promoted on their first exam. It's our duty to fulfill that same fate. Kanji said with a shrug. Maybe. I don't know. If we're lucky. It won't be luck. Hanabi commented, turning to her Yamanaka student. If he takes us there, we will surely do well and it won't be because of luck. If? He's definitely taking us. Katsumi said again. Naruto was silent, crossing his arms. He was initially hesitant to nominate his students for their first Chunin exams, since it was occurring in Kumo. However, perhaps they did have a point. He and his own team went through their first exams and learned quite a bit through the experience. Even if he had not been promoted, Naruto felt the experience was overall worth it for his development as a shinobi. I guess I'll think about it. Naruto spoke up, answering Sasuke's question. I suppose it's not our business to ask, anyway. Sasuke said. He then turned around and started to walk away from the restaurant. Enjoy your food. Sakura, Kiba, and I were on our way to training, so we should be getting back to that. Both Sakura and Kiba blinked in response as they turned to see that Sasuke was, indeed, heading away from Ichiraku's. They quickly bowed their heads. Nice to meet you all. Hope you all have a good day. Sakura replied as she hurried off. Yeah, same. All seriousness, Naruto's a great guy. You have a great sensei. Kiba added as both he and Akamaru went behind as well. Team 9 was left alone for a moment. The three genin watched the older shinobi walk away for a brief moment before they shook their heads. That Sasuke guy isn't the most social, is he? Kanji noted. Actually, he was pretty talkative just then. Naruto commented with a chuckle. He must have been in a good mood before I reminded him about the duck hair. Talkative? He barely spoke. Katsumi said incredulously. Talkative for him. Naruto amended his statement. He then looked over at his genin. Well, are you all done eating? Let's go bother Ero Sennin for another mission. His three genin students nodded in agreement. Naruto quickly paid Toki and Team 9 marched forward, heading towards the Hokage's office. I approve of the mission. Jiraiya nodded his head as he pulled out a scroll. I'd like to give you a scroll of my own to give to Shibuki, as well, to propose an alliance between Konoha and Taki. I figured you would. Anko said with a chuckle. Question, though. Do you know if anyone in my old squad is out of the village right now, or are they all available for this mission? Naruto, Hinata, and Shikamaru are all available right now, yes. The Hokage noted. His eyebrows rose. You want to bring your old genin for nostalgia's sake. Sarda. The Jonin admitted sheepishly. Well, I do think Naruto is important to bring along if we're going to be meeting with the Nanabe Jinchuriki. It'll make developing a friendship with her easier. I just figured, since I was going to probably get Naruto for the mission as well, I'd see if Hinata and Shikamaru are available as well. Jiraiya finished with a small smirk. I understand that sentiment. Yes, I am fine with that. Naruto will have to make some arrangements for someone to watch his genin students while he is away, but that can be done. The Hokage then lifted his hand. Would you mind if you give me a day or two to get my scroll ready to send to Shibuki before leaving for the mission? Of course. Just tell me when's good to go. Anko said with a smile. Thanks a lot, Jiraiya. Appreciate it. Anko bowed her head and went to the door. She opened it and proceeded to walk outside the Hokage's office. She then proceeded to bump her head against Naruto's. "Hey, watch where you are going." Anko cut herself off as she noticed her blonde student, along with the 3 genin following him. A smirk developed on her lips. Well. Look at this Jonin-sensei. How's it going? Anko-sensei. Naruto grinned at the woman. How are you doing? How was the mission for the 7 swordsmen? Took way too long for what it was, but it was good. We killed Rega and have already replaced him, so the only traitor left is Kisame. Once he's dead, a full new generation of the 7 swordsmen can be formed. Anko said with excitement. Her eyes then trailed backwards to his genin. Anyway, I have some things I need to get ready and you've got some Jonin-sensei stuff to do. We can catch up later and you can properly introduce your brats to me. Of course. Naruto nodded his head in understanding. Later, Anko-sensei. The 7 swordsmen of Kirigakure member nodded her head as she rushed off, beginning preparation for another mission outside of Konoha. Sensei. Katsumi repeated the word as she looked at Naruto. Was that your Jonin-sensei, Naruto-sensei? That she was. And she's the best one in this village, to be honest. Naruto said with a chuckle. Well, I guess second best, now. I am a Jonin-sensei now, after all. I resent that. I was clearly the best Jonin-sensei of the village. Jiraiya spoke up from his office. I trained the fucking yondaime, after all. A chuckle escaped Naruto's lips as he and his genin proceeded to walk into the Hokage's office, looking for a mission. You gave them the Tora mission again. Hinata looked at her boyfriend in shock. Naruto-kun, don't torture them. That's sorta fucked up, you know that. Shikamaru added. The 3 friends had agreed to meet up in a small civilian park in Konoha to relax later that evening. It was a full park, with swing, slides, monkey bars, and other things for kids to climb, but the sun was starting to set, so no kids were in sight. It was simply the 3 of them. Naruto was swinging on one of the swings, getting rather high into the air. Hinata was sitting down on the swing next to him but was not swinging, she was just sitting down. Shikamaru, on the other hand, was lying down on the ground by a nearby tree. In my defense, I did ask Ero Sennin for a C-rank mission, but he told me that there was no short-term C-rank missions available right now. And apparently, he has a mission that he wants me to go on in the next couple of days. Naruto said with a grumble. Which that's kinda annoying. I'm going to have to find someone to look after my genin while I'm away on this mission. Did he tell you anything about the mission? Shikamaru asked. No. He said someone else would fill me in. Naruto said with a sigh. I hate when he doesn't tell me things. I think it's just him getting back at me for calling him Ero Sennin. You know. 'Cause he's a pervert. Hinata proceeded to giggle. I know Jiraiya-sama is your godfather, but it still surprises me he tolerates you saying that nickname in front of other people. 'Cause deep down, he likes it. That's the only explanation. The Uzumaki noted with a smirk. He'll never admit it, but I know that's the truth. That's like saying I enjoyed being called lazy ass by Anko-sensei and Kuratsuka when we were younger. Shikamaru spoke up. I sure as hell didn't, and I can guarantee you that he doesn't either. What? A lazy ass didn't like being called a lazy ass? Why's that? Naruto immediately stopped swinging and Shikamaru pulled himself up. The 3 shinobi turned their heads to see Mitarashi Anko, standing by the park entrance with a smirk on her face as she walked towards them. The hell are you 3 doing here anyway? It took a lot longer to find you all than I was expecting. She grumbled to them. We're just relaxing. Nothing wrong with that. Naruto said defensively. A smirk developed on his lips. Enjoying being back in Konoha, Anko-sensei? Naturally. I love coming back home after a long mission. She answered. Do anything special in Kirigakure? Shikamaru questioned. How's Zabuza? Huh? Zabuza's fine I guess. Anko titled her head in confusion. Why do you ask? No reason. The Nara replied with a snicker. Oh, 'kay. Anko shrugged her shoulders. Anyway, I overheard a little bit about what you all were talking at the end there. Yup, Naruto is going to be assigned a mission in the next couple of days. As are you too, Shikamaru and Hinata. And guess who your leader during the mission is? Hinata looked at the Jonin in surprise. Anko-sensei, really? We're all going on a mission together. Anko nodded her head in response, just like old times. Team 3 is reunited again, damn it. A wide smirk developed on Naruto's face as he nodded his head in approval, hell yeah. Alright, I'm definitely down. What's the mission? Shikamaru questioned. Just like Naruto, he had a smirk of approval on his face as well. And when is it? Should start either tomorrow or the day after. We're going on a diplomatic mission to Dakigakure. Anko noted. We're also going to be meeting with the Nanabe Jinchuriki and both form some relationship with her and give her information about Akatsuki. Understood. Naruto nodded his head. The smirk that had been on his face seemingly widened as a thought just entered his head. Nanabe Jinchuriki, huh? Naruto was personally pleased with the relationships he had with all the Jinchuriki he had met so far. Seeing Gaara again and finding out that he was the Kazekage was the most rewarding thing about the mission in Sunagakure for him. The blonde was already excited about this mission and getting the chance to meet another Jinchuriki. I wonder what she's like. Hinata mumbled to herself. The Hyuga had yet to meet a female Jinchuriki and was curious to see what she was like. We'll find out on the mission. I'll fetch you all when it's time for it. Anko said with a smirk. Her eyes then moved over to the Hyuga's forehead and a confused look developed on her face. Not to change the topic, by the way, but what's on your forehead, Hinata? I don't recall seeing that seal there before. I know that's not your clan's caged bird bullshit, so what is that? Realization dawned on all three former genin of Team 3. They had a lot to fill in for their Jonin-sensei. Sasori and Deidara walked towards a large rock formation, deep within a mountain range in Kaze no Kuni. They both made a singular hand sign, which caused a rock on the rock formation to move apart, revealing an opening to a cave on the inside. Really? A rock blocking a secret entrance. Kabuto commented with a chuckle. That sounds like something out of kids' manga. Deidara turned his head back. The silver-haired shinobi was following the two Akatsuki members, his hands in his pocket. Deidara turned his attention to his partner and elbowed him. You sure the leader is going to be okay with this? He questioned. I have spoken to Zetsu about the topic already and have sent letters to Pain. I am certain there is no issue. Sasori answered. Zetsu was supportive, at least. Deidara crossed his arms. I hope you are right, Sasori no Dana. The two Akatsuki members continued to walk further into the cave, with Kabuto following behind them. They continued to walk for roughly 5 minutes before they stopped in a large, circular room within the cave. In the center of the room was 10 stone pedestals. Deidara and Sasori both walked to 2 of the stone pedestals. Sasori then turned his attention to Kabuto and gestured over to the stone next to him. Put on the ring that you have and make the same hand sign that we make. Follow our example. He explained. Do not speak unless spoken to. I know that is difficult for someone like you, who loves the sound of your voice, but believe me, you will be spoken to quite frequently. Heh. I understand. Kabuto nodded his head. As the former right hand of Orochimaru walked to the stone pedestal next to Sasori, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a ring that was marked with the kanji for sky. He put it on his right hand's ring finger as he stepped onto the pedestal. When he stepped on, Sasori and Deidara proceeded to make a singular hand sign. Kabuto quickly imitated the hand sign. 10 seconds passed by before the room started to glow. Colorful lights began to form above the other pedestals. The lights quickly began to change shape until they resembled silhouettes that resembled the other members of Akatsuki. Immediately, attention was drawn to Kabuto. All 7 other Akatsuki members were staring at him. Heh, do we have a new guy? How interesting. Kisame noted. You are Yakushi Kabuto, yes. Itachi spoke up, his eyes narrowing on Kabuto. Former right hand of Orochimaru and a spy of his on Konoha. I also believe you were Sasori's spy on Orochimaru. Interesting resume. However, how are you here? Kakuzu questioned, his eyes narrowed as well. You should not be able to be here. The jutsu that allows us to meet up in this fashion requires one of the 10 rings of the Jubi. I happen to have one of the rings, actually. Kabuto spoke as he lifted his right hand, showing off the ring. This is the ring that belonged to Orochimaru-sama. After his death, I acquired many of his belongings to aid in my research and personal work. One of the things I obtained was this ring right here. The missing 10th ring. The thing that prevented us from obtaining a 10th member. Kakuzu noted. His eyes seemingly narrowed further. And you're here with it because you with to join the Akatsuki. Sasori and Deidara brought him. I assume they trust him. Kisame noted. Don't lump me in with this. Deidara quickly lifted his hands up, defensively. Sasori no Dana decided this. Sasori sighed, giving his partner a look of annoyance. He took in a deep breath, preventing himself from commenting on Deidara's statement, before turning his head towards the leader of the Akatsuki. As I have mentioned in my letter to you, Kabuto is someone who I have a working relationship with. He was a former spy of mine who has developed more as a shinobi. He's a practical person and is a skilled medical shinobi, which is something our organization lacks. He already possesses one of the rings and is interested in working towards our end goals. I feel it would be fruitful to allow him to join. Sasori explained. Pain was silent, having not spoken a word since the meeting started. He nodded his head in understanding of Sasori's words before turning his attention towards Kabuto. The silver-haired shinobi understood his silent request and began to speak. It is as Sasori-sama has stated. I personally am interested in your end goal, Pain-sama. He said. With Orochimaru-sama dead, I struggled to find a purpose in my life. I decided to continue pursuing his ambition, but I felt I needed more. I am, admittedly, curious about your goal and would like to see if it is the future that I am looking forward to. A small chuckle escaped his lips as he adjusted his glasses. If anything, I am a solid medical shinobi and can perform complicated treatments and transplants. I'm also rather skilled in espionage. I believe I have the skills to be a useful tool for your end goals. Heh. Kisame smirked as Kabuto finished his speech. We'll get along just fine. Nice to work with ya, Kabuto. He seems like he would be rather useful, wouldn't you say, Pain-sama? Zetsu spoke up. I personally support him joining. Well, I don't. Kabuto blinked in response. From behind Zetsu's body developed a new projection. A new silhouette formed, showing a person wearing a spiral mask. No other physical features could be gleaned from their appearance. Strange. Did they not just say that you must be wearing one of these rings to participate in these meetings? How is that person appearing, then? Kabuto thought to himself. Pain-sama, you can't seriously be thinking of putting this guy in Akatsuki. I'm the next in line to join, right? Right? You all promised me that I would be able to join when a spot opened up. Zetsu-sama promised. Come on. The masked man began to pout. Please? Please? Let me have his spot. I can fight him if you'd like. Instinctively, Kabuto began to tense up. Before he could say anything, the Akatsuki leader spoke up. Toby, I appreciate your passion for the organization, but I am willing to accept this man's proposition. Pain spoke up as he turned to face Kabuto. Yakushi Kabuto, I resent your former master, Orochimaru, for his treachery. However, you are not him and have returned his ring. You bring skills that could be quite useful towards our end goal. I will also acknowledge Sasori vouching for you. Therefore, I will give you a chance. Consider yourself a member of Akatsuki. A smile graced Kabuto's lips as he bowed his head. I promise, you will not regret this decision. Orochimaru's former right hand seemed as if he was going to continue, but he stopped talking at the sound of sniffling. The masked-wearing shinobi, Toby, appeared to be crying. It also seemed as if you could see the tears despite wearing his mask. I can't believe I was passed up. Wah! He shrieked. Almost instantly, however, the tears dried up and he clapped his hands together. Well, it's okay. I'm sure an opening will develop sooner or later. Maybe Kakuzu-senpai finally finds a way to kill Hayden-senpai. Like hell he will. Hayden shouted, crossing his arms. I'm blessed by Jashin-sama. A heathen like Kakuzu could never hope to kill me. Toby, believe me, I have been looking and will continue to look for a way to kill this man. Kakuzu grumbled, his eyes narrowing now on his partner. Let's get back to business. Pain spoke up. All members of Akatsuki turned silent and focused back on their leader. While adding a new member to Akatsuki is important to discuss, that is not the primary reason I called for this meeting. I wanted to discuss our plans for the future. You referring to the invasion on Kumo? Kisame questioned with a smirk. No. I actually have something else I'd like to accomplish. Pain stated as he turned his head towards Hayden and Kakuzu. You two are the closest shinobi to Takigakuer, correct? Bah. Kakuzu crossed his arms at the mention of his former village. I believe we are. We are approximately 3 days away from that shithole. Good. The leader nodded his head in understanding. While I do intend on us carrying out the invasion of Kumo, we still have some time before the Chunin exams. I believe it would be beneficial for us to capture one of the Jinchuriki at this time. We currently do not have any captured and I believe we can rectify that. So you want us to go take the one in Taki, right? Hayden questioned. Why that bitch? Couldn't we do one of the others? It is to our benefit that we go after her. The figure next to Pain, the blue-haired woman next to him, spoke for the first time all meeting. Unlike the other Jinchuriki, with the exception of the Rokubai Jinchuriki, she is the only one who could feasibly go missing without drawing attention. Taki has been particularly secretive with her identity and many people do not know her identity. It would be rather simple for us to simply kidnap her without drawing much attention. So, Hayden and I are going to sneak in and bring her back to take the Nanabi. Kakuzu noted. Humph. I can't believe I'll be stepping my feet back in that wretched village. But I'll accept. I'd be more than willing to take down any Taki shinobi, as well. I'd prefer you not draw much attention in the process, but do whatever it takes to obtain her. Pain suggested. With pleasure. A smirk developed underneath Kakuzu's mask. 2 days had passed. Naruto, Hinata, and Shikamaru stood in front of the gate to Konoha, all carrying their bags and equipment. Each of them had an excited look on their face. Who did you end up getting to watch over your students while you're away, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked the blonde. A friend of mine. Naruto said with a snicker. Hinata waited a brief second for him to elaborate further, but he did not. She proceeded to frown, pocketing her hands with a sigh. I hope you did not give them someone too bad. I would personally like to not hear my sister rant about you, you know. In all seriousness, I got them someone who would take care of them. They'll be fine. He told her. You three ready? Naruto, Hinata, and Shikamaru turned around to see Anko walking towards them. The purple-haired shinobi was grinning as she looked out on each of her former students. Nostalgic, huh? This'll be just like old times. Anko said cheerfully. Going on a mission with Whiskers, Stutters-chan, and Lazy Ass, with the badass and sexy Mitarashi Anko leading the charge. Except I don't stutter as much anymore. Hinata commented with a giggle. Or at all, really. And I swear to God, if one you calls me lazy ass again, especially nowadays. Shikamaru grumbled to himself. Ah, lighten up. You know I'm just screwing around. Anko said with a chuckle. Anyway, let's get on moving then. Team 3 is back in action. Right. Naruto, Hinata, and Shikamaru all spoke simultaneously. With those words, the 4 shinobi moved through the gates of the village and headed in the direction of Takigakuer. Check the description for the links to the author.